Chapter 689. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels that can't be found online are all available here. When Nan Gong-li returned to his residence, he immediately called his trusted bodyguard over and asked him about the progress of the investigation. The bodyguard said with a troubled expression, "General, there are too many places to investigate. It's only been a day. Even if we go to the Ministry of Revenue to investigate the household registration, it will take several days, right?" This was the truth. Investigating a person's information was not that simple. Although the household registration of the country and the household registration of foreigners were recorded separately, the problem was that there were many foreigners. In addition, the Ministry of Revenue wouldn't really give them the household registration of foreigners for investigation. In fact, if someone went to watch the archery competition, they wouldn't find the name Xiao Lulang unfamiliar. However, the distance between them was like a mountain. Nan Gong-li didn't pay attention to archery, so he had never heard of the new student of Zhao country, Xiao Lulang, who single-handedly changed the style of the 3 archery competitions. It wasn't that Nan Gong-li didn't empathize with the difficulties of his subordinates, but he also had his own difficulties. The Crown Prince didn't even tell the Han family about the assassination of Xiao Lulang and entrusted him with an important task. As a result, he messed up in Zhao country and let the person escape to the king's eyes. If the king knew about this, they would all be finished. Nan Gong-li frowned and said, "I don't care what method you use. You must find Xiao Lulang within 3 days." The bodyguard felt bitter. Not to mention 3 days, even 30 days might not be enough. There were so many people in Chengdu. Finding Xiao Lulang was tantamount to finding a needle in a haystack. The bodyguard sighed, "It would be good if we had people in the Ministry of Revenue." The Minister of Revenue was a member of the Wang family. He had never interacted much with the Nan Gong family. The Wang family was a true century-old prosperous family. The strength of the family was above the Han family. If it weren't for the fact that Wang Xianfei couldn't give birth to a son, the position of Crown Prince would have been uncertain. It was difficult to sneak into the Ministry of Revenue to investigate the household registration. The Nan Gong family and the Wang family had experts. It wasn't worth it to alert the enemy. Nan Gong-li frowned. "If you have time to talk nonsense, hurry up and find him." "Yes." The trusted guard hurriedly retreated. Nan Gong-li closed his eyes. He had to find Xiao Lulang as soon as possible and kill him. The Crown Prince had already been disappointed in him once. He couldn't afford to be disappointed a second time. Before Nan Gong-li returned to his room to rest, he inexplicably thought of his injured youngest son. He hadn't gone to see him for 2 days. He thought for a moment, then turned and went to Nan Gonglin's courtyard. Nan Gonglin did not know that his father was coming. He was lying on his side on the bed without a care for his image. As he shook his legs, he leisurely listened to the servant talking about the bowls competition. "Are you sure? The Qianqiong Academy lost?" The page boy smiled and said, "Yes, yes. Little young master, I went to see for myself. He lost so miserably." Nan Gong-lin patted his thigh gloatingly. "A bunch of people who overestimate themselves. Don't you know who opened Jia Nan Academy? That's the Academy of the Imperial Preceptor Palace." The page boy said flatteringly, "Little young master is right." Nan Gong-lin plucked a grape from the tray held by the maidservant kneeling beside the bed and threw it into his mouth. "By the way, how angry was that Xiao Lulang?" The page boy said, "He didn't go." Nan Gong-lin frowned. "What do you mean?" The page boy explained, "It means that he didn't go." That day, even Mu Chuan, who had just recovered from his injuries, went on stage, but Xiao Lulang didn't appear from beginning to end. I asked around later, and it seems that Xiao Lulang is sick. He's very sick and can't come to the competition. Nan Gong-lin laughed heartily. "Serves him right. Xiao Lulang has such a day. Isn't that so, master?" The page boy was halfway through his words when he suddenly saw Nan Gong-li standing at the door. He was so scared that his face turned pale, and he bent down. "Father." Nan Gong Lin hurriedly put away his bad manners, sat up properly, and waved at the maidservant beside him without batting an eyelid. The maidservant put away the fruit tray, stood up, and bowed to Nan Gong Li. "Master." Nan Gong Li thought of his son's frivolous appearance just now, and his heart was filled with anger. However, he still saved his son's face in front of the servants. "All of you, leave." "Yes." The page boy and maidservant hurriedly walked out, and the page boy did not forget to close the door for the two of them. Nan Gong Lin asked, "Father, it's so late, why are you here?" Nan Gong Li glanced at him coldly. "You're recuperating at home, so you don't go to the academy. Is this how you look when you're recuperating?" Nan Gong Lin rubbed his sleeves guiltily. "I'm stretching my muscles and bones." The most infuriating thing was not to catch a child making a mistake, but to deny it even after catching him. Nan Gong Li really wanted to slap him. He raised his hand, and Nan Gong Lin was so scared that he quickly covered his head with his hands. When Nan Gong Li saw the scar on his wrist, he suppressed his anger and put down his hand. "Get back to the academy tomorrow." "Oh." Nan Gong Lin reluctantly agreed. Nan Gong Li shouted sternly, "What's with your attitude?" Nan Gong Lin was so scared that he trembled. He hurriedly said, "I'll go. I'll go. I'll definitely go." Nan Gong Li asked, "I just heard you mention a name, Xiao Lulang. Who is this person?" "Oh, him, a person from a lower country." Nan Gong Lin did not tell the truth about his injury to his family. First, his father did not allow him to cheat. Second, it was fine if he cheated, but he also fell down. It was so embarrassing. Therefore, everyone in the family thought it was just an accident, and did not deliberately ask about any of the bowlers on the field. Nan Gong Li's eyes were slightly cold. "Which lower country?" Nan Gong Lin thought for a while. "It seems to be Zhao country or Zhao country. I don't remember." Nan Gong Li slowly clenched his fist. "Newcomers?" Nan Gong Lin nodded. "Yes." "Which academy?" Nan Gong Li asked. Nan Gong Lin said, "Chenqiong Academy." They entered the last round, but they were beaten by Jianan Academy. Chenqiong Academy, Xiao Lulang, a person from a lower country. It was really a case of wearing out iron shoes in a fruitless search, but finding it without any effort. "Xiao Lulang, your death date has arrived." Gu Jiao returned to the house. It was very late. Madame Nan was embroidering in the central room waiting for her. Madame Nan was not only bad at cooking, but she was also very stupid at embroidery. However, she was now a mother. Although she was just an adoptive mother and Madame Nan, she still decided to learn these things as soon as possible. "Jiao Jiao, you're back." She put down the embroidery in her hands. "You haven't eaten yet, right?" Gu Jiao said, "I've eaten." "Madame Nan, you should rest early. I'll go to sleep after I'm done with this. What do you think of my embroidery?" Madame Nan showed the results of her night's work to Gu Jiao. To be honest, Gu Jiao hadn't seen an embroidery artist who could compete with her great-aunt in a long time. "You've improved," Gu Jiao said without changing her expression. Mistress Nan smiled happily and said, "Is that so?" "I think so too." Madame Nan was praised and became even more energetic. She started embroidering in high spirits. Gu Jiao wanted to say something but stopped. Forget it, as long as Madame Nan was happy. Gu Jiao went to Gu Yan's room. Gu Xiaoshun was already fast asleep. Gu Yan was a light sleeper, or it could be said that he hadn't slept at all. Gu Jiao touched his forehead. "I said I would come back." Gu Yan made a small nasal sound. "Go to sleep," Gu Jiao said softly. The next day, Nan Gong Li woke up before the sun rose. If it wasn't for the fact that it was too late last night and the inner city gates were already closed, he might have killed his way to Chenqiong Academy in the middle of the night. The moment the inner city gates opened, Nan Gong Li sat in the carriage and drove out. Although Xiao Lulang was just a weak scholar, he was as cunning as Marquis Xian Ping. He didn't feel at ease leaving him to his subordinates. He wanted to kill him personally. Nangong Li's carriage arrived near the academy. The carriage driver was his trusted bodyguard. He disguised himself and no one recognized his original appearance. "Go and ask," Nangong Li said. "Yes." The bodyguard jumped off the carriage and went to the gate of Chenqiong Academy. He handed a string of knife coins to the gatekeeper and smiled. "Little brother, I'm from 5 Mountains Academy. My master admires Master Zhao's character and wants to get to know him. I'm here to ask if Master Xiao has Xiao Lulang come." The gatekeeper took the knife coins and said, "Master Xiao won't come to the academy today. You've come for nothing." The bodyguard was slightly stunned. He then asked with a smile, "Can I ask where he went?" The gatekeeper said, "He went to the palace to see the king." The bodyguard was shocked. What? See the king? Is this true?" On the carriage, Nangong Li frowned when he heard the bodyguard's report. Why would he go to see the king? The monarch wouldn't just casually meet a subordinate. The bodyguard said, "The gatekeeper said that they lost because of the shooting competition. However, Jianan Academy exchanged rewards with them. Jianan Academy took 10,000 taels of gold and they were qualified to enter the palace to see the king. If Xiao Lulang went somewhere else, Nangong Li could wait for him to come back. However, Xiao Lulang went to the palace to see the king." Nangong Li gritted his teeth. "We can't let him see the king. Return to the inner city." On a luxurious carriage heading to the inner city, except for Mu Qingchen, the other 4 members of the shooting competition from Chenqiong Academy were all there. Mu Chuan touched his aching head and asked strangely, "Lulang, didn't you say you didn't want to enter the palace? Why did you change your mind?" Gu Jiao smiled evilly. "I thought about it. It's not bad to enter the palace. Nangong Li, if you want to kill me, come to the palace." The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found on the internet can be found here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_826/1073459443. HTML Genius memorized the website address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Biku Pavilion Mobile Reading Website. zhbqg.com. Chapter 690. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that cannot be found online are all available here. On the carriage, the trusted guard advised Nangong Li, "General, that is the imperial palace. We cannot act rashly. Let's do it another day? Or wait for him to come out?" Nangong Li snorted coldly. "Wait for him to come out? You don't know who he is going to see today?" The trusted guard said, "I know, Your Majesty." Nangong Li said snappily, "If Xiao Lulang reveals to the Emperor that we have been chasing after him all these years, you and I will not live to see tomorrow morning." The trusted guard said, "The Emperor may not believe him." Nangong Li said coldly, "What if he believes? In this world, anyone's mind can be guessed, except for our great Yan's Emperor. You will never be able to guess what he is thinking. His actions are strange and he does not have any rules. If you say he is tyrannical, he will not care about a wild child from the countryside peeing on his shoes. This sounds unbelievable, but I have seen it with my own eyes." The trusted guard was dumbfounded. Nangong Li continued, "If you think the Emperor is merciful to children because of this, then he has personally ordered the death of a cowherd boy." The trusted guard was completely speechless. There were many rumors about the Emperor, but they were all hearsay after all. He did not dare to believe them all. He did not expect his general to have seen the emperor's crazy actions with his own eyes. No wonder there was another name for the emperor, Crazy Emperor. Nan Gongli said, "Now you understand that I cannot take this risk, right? Even if Xiao Lulang only has a 1 in 10 chance of making the emperor believe him, I cannot gamble with my life." The trusted guard cupped his fist. "I understand. General, this trip is dangerous. Let me assassinate him." Dangerous? Nan Gongli smiled meaningfully. Xiao Lulang really put in a lot of effort to see the emperor. But does he think this is foolproof? He will soon know that it is 100 times easier for me to kill him in the imperial palace than outside. Oh! The carriage wobbled into the inner city. The furthest place Gu Jiao had walked in the inner city was the Conglan Women's Academy. She didn't know what it was like after that. Along the way, she did not hide her curiosity. She lifted the curtain and openly looked around. In fact, other than Mu Chuan who had entered the palace before, the rest of them were entering the palace for the first time. They were also quite curious. Mu Chuan was very happy to be their guide. He pointed at the shops by the roadside and introduced them one by one. Which shop had delicious preserved fruits and which shop had greasy pork knuckles? We've arrived at Chongyong Street. After the carriage made a turn to the east, Mu Chuan exclaimed excitedly, "We'll reach Great Yen Gate after making another turn." Although he had the experience of entering the palace, the feeling of going with his family and classmates was very different. Wu Fuzi was in the carriage in front. He looked calm, but in fact, he was eavesdropping. After all, it was his first time entering the palace. "What is Great Yen Gate?" Gu Jiao asked. Mu Chuan introduced it with pride. "You're from Zhao Kingdom. You may not know, but there are 5 gates in Great Yan's palace. The first gate is Gao Gate, followed by Fengtian Gate, Duan Gate, Meridian Gate, and Taihe Gate. The place we're going to is one of the 3 main halls behind Meridian Gate, the Golden Imperial Hall. It was originally called Taihe Hall, but it was later renamed. As expected of Zhao Kingdom, there were several more gates than Zhao Kingdom's palace. The carriage couldn't travel too fast near the palace, so it took them about 15 minutes to reach Gao Gate. Today's visit to the palace was scheduled, so there was a 30-year-old eunuch waiting outside Gao Gate. When he saw the carriage stop, he went up and asked with a smile, "Are you a teacher and student from Tianqiong Academy?" Wu Fuzi lifted the curtain and got out of the carriage. He saluted the eunuch and said politely, "I'm Wu Cheng from Tianqiong Academy." The eunuch said with a pleasant expression, "Ah, you're Wu Fuzi. I've heard a lot about you. My surname is Li. Wu Fuzi can call me Li Sandy." Wu Fuzi didn't take others' politeness as his confidence. He smiled and saluted, "So it's eunuch Li." Li Sandy's smile deepened. "Then please get out of the carriage with Wu Fuzi and the other young masters. I'll bring you into the palace." Gu Jiao and the others got out of the carriage. Among them, Li Sandy only recognized Mu Chuan. He smiled and greeted Mu Chuan, "Young Master Mu, long time no see." Mu Chuan obviously didn't know Li Sandy. Li Sandy smiled, "I used to work in Baohe Palace and was transferred to the Imperial Palace last year. I've seen young Master Mu from afar at the Spring Lantern Festival banquet." "I see." Mu Chuan nodded and greeted, then called Eunuch Li. Don't underestimate the eunuchs of the throne room. They went to the Imperial Palace every day and were the closest people to the Emperor. Although they didn't want to win them over, at least they shouldn't look down on them. Mu Chuan usually looked silly and sweet, but he had a keen sense of social interaction as a young master of an aristocratic family. Li Sandy smiled until his eyes couldn't be seen. Gu Jiao, Yuan Shao, and the others didn't deliberately get close to Li Sandy. Li Sandy didn't pay attention to everyone. He gave face to Wu Fuzi because he was the master of the fencing team. He gave face to Mu Chuan because he was the legitimate son of the Mu family. The other 3 people's identities were a little. Li Sandy glanced around and saw Gu Jiao with a birthmark on the left side of her face. He paused for a moment. This kind of appearance was really rare. The other party's temperament was even rarer. It was reasonable to say that people with a disfigured face would feel inferior, but this young man had an imposing appearance and a valiant posture. He exuded an unruly arrogance from head to toe. It can't be, right? He looks so arrogant. Eunuch Li. Mu Chuan blocked Eunuch Li's line of sight at the right time. He didn't want anyone to pay too much attention to Xiao Liulong's appearance and look down on Xiao Lulang. Li Sandy came back to his senses and smiled awkwardly. We'll be there soon. Speaking of which, why didn't Master Su come this time? Mu Chuan said, my fourth brother had something to do at the last minute. He had already asked Concubine Xian to apologize to His Majesty. Concubine Xian was the legitimate daughter of the Wang family. Her sister-in-law, old Madame Wang, was the younger sister of old Master Mu. Li Sandy sighed, sigh, you guys are really bold. You actually dared to exchange rewards with the people of Jianan Academy. Aren't you afraid of His Majesty's blame? Gu Jiao nodded. That's right. Give me back my gold. Mu Chuan smiled. Jianan Academy is run by the State Preceptor Hall. His Majesty has let them play in the palace many times. Why would he still want to see them? He had asked Concubine Xian, and she said it was okay. That was why he did it. They walked through a long bluestone palace path. There was a checkpoint at the Fengtian Gate and the Duan Gate respectively. After passing through the Duan Gate, they would arrive at the outer court. Mu Chuan introduced it to Gu Jiao. The east side is the Imperial Clan Court, the Six Ministries, and the Honglu Temple. In the early years, the Imperial Astronomer was also here. After the State Preceptor Hall was built, the Imperial Astronomer moved away. The west side is the Supreme Court and the 4 rearguard commanderies: front, back, left, and right. As they spoke, they arrived at the Meridian Gate. The checkpoint at the Meridian Gate was obviously stricter than the previous 3 gates. If Li Sandy had not stopped them, Gu Jiao and the others would have been searched. It's to prevent us from bringing weapons, Mu Chuan explained softly. This trip was really long. Fortunately, they finally entered the Meridian Gate. The majestic throne room came into view. It was like a lion king under the sky, exuding a solemn aura. Mu Chuan thought they were going to the throne room, but Li Sandy brought them to the Zhonghe Hall at the back. Li Sandy smiled and said, His Majesty is still in the morning court. I'll take you to the side hall to wait. The group arrived at the side hall of the Zhonghe Hall. Li Sandy ordered the servants to serve fresh lychees and snacks. Li Sandy probably understood that his presence would make them feel uncomfortable, so he thoughtfully stood guard at the door of the side hall. Other than Gu Jiao, the others in the room began to feel excited or nervous. We're going to meet His Majesty. Wu Fuzi raised his teacup, his hands trembling. Zhao Wei and Yuan Zhao's hands did not tremble, but their legs did. Mu Chuan was excited. He was finally going to meet His Majesty. Although he had been to the palace, he had only met the concubines in the palace. Otherwise, he had seen His Majesty from afar during the palace banquet. He had never been summoned by His Majesty face to face. He felt that he could brag about it for the rest of his life. Gu Jiao was a little absent-minded. Was Nangong Li stupid? Or did he not have the guts to come to the palace? If he did not act now, they would have to go back after meeting His Majesty. Gu Jiao stood up. Mu Chuan asked, What are you doing? Gu Jiao nodded and said, I'm going to the washroom. Do you want me to go with you? Mu Chuan asked considerately. Gu Jiao glanced at him and said, No need. Mu Chuan said, Let me go with you. It's your first time in the palace. Gu Jiao said, Are you going to help me or what? Mu Chuan suddenly choked. Gu Jiao stepped out of the door and asked the palace maid in the corridor where the washroom was. The palace maid pointed the way. Gu Jiao walked out of the side hall and walked towards the washroom. When she passed by a small garden, a palace maid walked towards her in a hurry. The palace maid did not look where she was going and bumped into Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao was as steady as a rock and did not move at all. Instead, she bumped into herself and fell to the ground. A few gold ingots fell out of her arms and she hurriedly grabbed them. At first, she quickly looked at Gu Jiao and lowered her head with a guilty conscience. She hid the gold ingots behind her back and said, I'm sorry. It's okay. Gu Jiao said. She bowed to Gu Jiao and then ran away without looking back. Stealing from the palace? With Gu Jiao's temperament, she naturally would not care about this kind of thing. Gu Jiao continued to walk forward. When she was about to reach the washroom, an unfamiliar young eunuch caught up with her and asked, "In front, is young Master Xiao in front?" Gu Jiao stopped and looked at him indifferently. "I am. Who are you?" The young eunuch bent down and put his hands on his thighs. He said breathlessly, "I am little Deng. His Majesty summoned." Eunuch Li brought the others. I came to bring young Master Xiao over. Young Master Xiao, hurry. Follow me. Don't let His Majesty wait too long. Otherwise, when His Majesty blames you, young Master Xiao will suffer. Oh. Gu Jiao turned around and said, "Then I'll have to trouble you to lead the way." The young eunuch wiped the sweat on his neck with his sleeve and said, This way please." Gu Jiao followed him and walked forward. "This is not the way I came," Gu Jiao said. The young eunuch said, "That way is too late. The corridors take a long time. If we go from here, we will reach the throne room in no time." Gu Jiao said, "Oh." The young eunuch continued to lead the way. The flattering smile on his face gradually froze and was replaced by a look of disdain and calculation. Gu Jiao followed him out of the hall of Zhonghe and came to a lush grassland. To the east of the grassland was a small greenhouse and to the west was a small woodshed for storing tools. "We will be there soon," the young eunuch said with a fake smile. "It doesn't matter if we don't get there," Gu Jiao said. The young eunuch was stunned. He glanced at the woodshed without being noticed. Gu Jiao said, "Are you not going to take me to the woodshed?" The young eunuch was stunned again. Gu Jiao said indifferently, "Then I'm really going." Then she walked past the young eunuch and through the door of the woodshed. The young eunuch's eyes trembled. He subconsciously reached out his hand as if he wanted to grab Gu Jiao, but in the end he didn't have the courage. Just as he was hesitating, the door of the woodshed was pulled open from the inside with a clang. Two powerful eunuchs walked out fiercely. One of them had a rope in his hand and the other had a sack in his hand. Gu Jiao looked at the sack and raised her eyebrows. Oh. They were on the same side. The eunuch holding the sack coldly said to the young eunuch, "Why are you talking nonsense with him? Why aren't you going to catch him?" Yes. The young eunuch received the order and steeled his heart. He gathered his courage and threw himself at Gu Jiao. The young eunuch didn't know martial arts. The two older eunuchs did, but they weren't very good. If the person entering the palace today was the real scholar Xiao Lulang, this lineup would be more than enough. So Nangong Li didn't underestimate Xiao Liulong's strength. But Nangong Li never expected that the person entering the palace would be Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao didn't have the time to waste with them. In the blink of an eye, the three of them fell to the ground. They were in so much pain that their facial features were twisted. "Didn't you say he didn't know martial arts?" "Who knows? Oh, my old waist." Gu Jiao looked down at the three of them. "Where is Nangong Li?" The eyes of the three flashed, but they didn't say anything. Gu Jiao tilted her head and stepped on the shoulder of one of the eunuchs. She broke his arm on the spot. "Don't make me ask a third time." That person was in so much pain that his veins popped out. His whole body was covered in cold sweat and his breathing seemed to be choked. He used the last of his willpower to suppress the pain from his body and said, What are you saying? We don't understand. This is the palace." "General Nangong, how could he come?" Gu Jiao calmly said. "If he doesn't see me die with his own eyes, how could he be at ease?" Nangong Li had already failed once. She didn't believe that he would dare to gamble a second time. "Your lives, I actually don't care at all," Gu Jiao coldly said. She stepped on the eunuch and with a crack, the head of the eunuch under her foot tilted and he fell unconscious. The remaining two eunuchs were scared silly. What kind of situation was this? Did this brat kill old Chow? What happened to the weak scholar? Gu Jiao looked at the younger eunuch and the older eunuch. Out of the three of you, only one can live. Which one of you said it? I said it. I said it. I said it. The two of them said it in unison. I said it first. The younger eunuch took advantage of his young age and reacted quickly. He opened his mouth and said, General Nangong is here. Show. A hidden weapon flew through the air. The sound was extremely loud and its speed was very fast. It went straight for Gu Jiao's neck. Gu Jiao's ears moved. She turned her finger and shot out a Tanghua needle. The Tanghua needle hit the hidden weapon and it hit a tree branch not far away. So it was just a stone. Gu Jiao indifferently moved her foot and turned around. Her cold eyes looked in the direction the hidden weapon came from. Unsurprisingly, she saw Nangong Li using his qinggong to fly over. Nangong Li lost an arm and his right sleeve was empty. However, even if he used his left hand, if Gu Jiao was hit by that attack, she would not feel good. Gu Jiao faced the famous general of Great Yen country and her aura was not weak at all. The two of them were one zhang apart. She fearlessly walked forward a few steps and said with a smile that was not a smile, Long time no see, General Nangong. Nangong Li's eyes tightened. You are not Xiao Lu Lang. Who are you? Gu Jiao had seen Nangong Li twice. Both times, he was in the dark and never showed himself. Gu Jiao crossed her hands and walked towards him. Isn't General Nangong investigating me? Could it be that you still can't guess who I am? She used her own voice. It was a woman. Nangong Li's pupils suddenly shrank. You are Gu Jiao. Nangong Li's entire person was unwell. He had chased after Xiao Lu Lang for so long, but in the end, it was this girl from the countryside. Nangong Li had investigated Xiao Hang and knew that he faked his death to leave the capital. He used Xiao Liulong's identity to hide his identity and return to the capital. At that time, he had brought a girl from the countryside with him. Her name was Gu Jiao. It was said that she was the daughter of a marquis. Nangong Li did not care. He was a general of great country. He did not even put the emperor of Zhao country in his eyes, let alone a daughter of a marquis. Therefore, he had never investigated Gu Jiao. The one who entered the palace was Gu Jiao, not Xiao Lu Lang. Then why would he chase after her? The risk was very high. Nangong Li turned around and left. You want to leave? Gu Jiao shot out a Tanghua needle. Nangong Li felt a chill on his back. He hurriedly flew up and stepped on a tree trunk. He flipped over and avoided the attack. You're crazy. After Nangong Li landed and steadied himself, he angrily looked at Gu Jiao. Do you want to die with me? In a moment, when His Majesty finds out that I trespassed into the palace, I will expose the fact that you are an impostor. You don't think that your end will be better than mine. Gu Jiao raised her hand and broke off a long branch from the top of her head. Using the branch as a spear, she coldly pointed at him. Who wants to die with you? If I kill you, then no one will know that I am an impostor. Nangong Li suspected that he had misheard. What did this girl say? Kill him? In the palace? Where did she get the confidence to think that she could kill him? Even if he lost an arm, killing her would be as easy as killing an ant. However, there was still a risk of being discovered. For Xiao Lu Lang, taking this risk was worth it. For an impostor girl, there was no need. Not far away, the sound of footsteps could be heard. Nangong Li sneered, Girl, there are already people coming from the side hall. Don't force me to kill you. I know. So, I'll have to trouble you to die. Gu Jiao's foot tapped and she flew up. The spear in her hand was like a roaring dragon as it fiercely bit at Nangong Li. It was clearly just a branch, but it made her use the power of mountains and rivers. Nangong Li looked at the familiar spear technique and his eyes almost instantly widened in disbelief. This is the Shenyuan family's spear technique. Digression. A new month has begun. We will continue to set sail. Guaranteed monthly tickets. Let's go. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, Please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels that can't be found online are all here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_89642823931. HTML Genius will remember this site's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Biku Gur mobile reading website. zhbqg.com. Chapter 691. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels that can't be found online are all available here. Ah Cheng, what were you practicing just now? It's the Shenyuan family's spear technique. My father created it himself. There are 7 styles in total. Do you want to learn it? That's inappropriate. After all, it's the Shenyuan family's spear technique. How can I, a member of the Nangong family, learn it privately? What's inappropriate about it? To go to war and kill the enemy, the Yen kingdom will have an extra layer of protection if we have a strong general. Shenyuan Cheng had taught him this set of spear techniques without reservation. He treated it as a treasure and was so excited that he couldn't sleep for days. He still remembered how Shenyuan Cheng had taught him, so he couldn't be mistaken. This girl was using the Shenyuan family's spear technique. But this was too strange. How could a girl from a lower country know the Shenyuan family's spear technique? If it was Xiao Lulang who knew it, he would be shocked, but at least there was some evidence. After all, Xiao Lulang and the Shenyuan family were inextricably linked. Once the Shenyuan family appeared, all ghosts would submit. This meant that even the ghosts of purgatory were afraid of the Shenyuan family. How could the living be their opponent? Nangong Li clearly understood that this girl was still wet behind the ears. So what if she used the Shenyuan family's spear technique? It wasn't the real Shenyuan family. But Nangong Li's heart instinctively surged with fear. He was distracted. And in this distraction, the spear pierced his right thigh. After all, it wasn't a real spear, so it didn't pierce through him. But even so, his thigh was severely paralyzed. The boy's gaze was like a knife, and his murderous aura was like a wolf. In an instant, Nangong Li felt a familiar fighting spirit. It was the blood of the Shenyuan family. Nangong Li almost forgot to counterattack until he regained his senses and felt a sharp pain in his thigh. He used his sword to deflect Gu Jiao's spear. If it was said that he still had a trace of a fluke and thought that this girl was not using the real Shenyuan spear art, then he was completely sure now. But that was even stranger, wasn't it? The people of the Shenyuan family were all dead. Who did this girl steal the spear technique from? It couldn't be that this lass had snuck into the Nangong residence and was hiding beside him, secretly watching him practice martial arts, right? No, he hadn't practiced the Shenyuan family's spear techniques for more than 10 years. It wasn't that he didn't want to learn it, nor was it that the Shenyuan family's spear techniques weren't powerful enough. It was precisely because they were too powerful that very few people other than the Shenyuan family could learn them. This spear technique had extremely high requirements for speed and strength, but it didn't have high requirements for inner strength. People with strong inner strength would often unconsciously use inner strength when making a move, but this spear technique created by Shenyuan Li required the practitioner to store all of their inner strength into their dantian. Collecting is always harder than letting go. If he was not careful, his dantian would be damaged. Apart from the group of perverts from the Shenyuan family, no normal person would be able to endure the pain of having their dantian filled with inner strength. This was also the reason why he had given up on this spear technique back then. He had once lamented that Shenyuan Cheng had done it on purpose. The reason why he had generously taught him the spear technique was because he would not be able to learn it no matter what. But how did a little girl learn it? Nangong Li's mind was in a mess. Today's events had happened one after another, all of them exceeding his expectations. Second move. Gu Jiao spun around, her long spear was like a knife, bringing with it a domineering aura as it fiercely chopped towards Nan Gongli. If this was a real long spear, Nan Gongli did not doubt that he would have been cut in half by this little girl. What a vicious little girl! Nan Gongli chopped off Gu Jiao's spearhead with one slash. Anyway, it wasn't a real red tasseled spear. Even if you cut off a part of it, I still have a large part. If there was no spearhead, then it would be a spearhead. Furthermore, Nan Gongli realized that he had been tricked after cutting it. This little girl wasn't here to take his life. She had purposely moved the branch by an inch, causing it to be uneven even though he had shaved off a part of it. He had shaved off a spearhead for her. Gu Jiao looked at her weapon with satisfaction, the corners of her lips curling up as she said, "Now it's not round and blunt anymore." Nan Gongli fiercely choked. "You! Is this how you use the Shenyuan family's spear techniques? Meet ghosts, kill ghosts. Meet gods, kill gods. Meet gods, kill gods. How can you use it so indecently?" The sound of footsteps came closer and closer. "It seems that I have to end this battle as soon as possible." The shock that this little girl brought to him was over. Now he had to use his full strength to fight. Nan Gongli coldly snorted, "The last time I used my full strength was when I fought with Xinyuan Cheng, little girl." Gu Jiao interrupted him. "Nonsense, when you were chased by Chong Jing, when did you not use your full strength? If you didn't use your full strength, how could you escape?" Nan Gongli staggered and almost fell. "Little girl. A soldier can be killed, but not humiliated. Don't I want my face?" No, using all his strength to escape and using all his strength to kill were two different things. Chong Jing had cut off his arm because he had underestimated her. If they really stood on the stage, he wouldn't lose to Chong Jing. After he was injured, he couldn't fight Chong Jing head-on. "Die, little girl. I don't care who you are or why you obtained this spear technique. Today you will die under this general's sword." Nan Gongli's body exploded with a terrifying killing intent. It wasn't like this little girl was the only one who knew the Shenyuan family's martial arts. He also knew it. He learned the Shenyuan family's inner strength and sword techniques. Now, he would let this little girl see what true strength was. Nan Gongli's inner strength was like an invisible giant whirlpool, sweeping up all the dust and leaves on the ground. He gathered his inner strength in his left hand and pointed his sword at the sky. The sword energy was like a rainbow as it fiercely chopped down at Gu Jiao. Poochie! It was the sound of a sharp blade entering a body. Nan Gongli's lips curled up in satisfaction. But halfway through, his smile froze. His sword had indeed pierced through Gu Jiao, but it had only pierced through her clothes. That sound just now was her spear, piercing through his body. Nan Gongli's eyes widened in disbelief. What just happened? How did this little girl do it? Gu Jiao kicked his chest. His body was pulled out from the spear, and heavily flew out. Gu Jiao rubbed her wrist and said with some dissatisfaction, "It's my first time using this spear technique to kill someone, so I'm not very familiar with it. It took me so many stabs to finally hit you." Nan Gongli fell to the ground and suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. It wasn't from injury, but from anger. 3 moves. Under this little girl's spear technique, he actually only lasted 3 moves. And this little girl was actually still not satisfied. Blood rapidly flowed out and there was a pool of blood below him. She didn't know why, but this scene felt familiar to Gu Jiao. It was as if in some dream, there was also someone who fell in a pool of blood like this. Gu Jiao tilted her head in a strange manner, trying to find the familiar scene that flashed through her mind. She walked step by step towards Nan Gongli. Nan Gongli's life was rapidly flowing away and his consciousness began to blur. In a daze, he seemed to see Shenyuan Cheng holding a red tasseled spear and walking towards him with a cold expression. "Nan Gongli, I trusted you so much, but you shot me in the back. You also have a day like this?" "Sigh, Nan Gongli, I don't like Prince Jing and I don't want him to be my brother-in-law. Why don't you marry my sister?" "Sigh, why did you lose again? You're a big man and you can't beat my sister." "Nan Gongli, Hang in there. We'll reach the medical hall soon. Who told you to pounce on me just now? I can dodge it myself. How, come here. He will be your playmate from now on. His name is Nangong Li. Can he take a beating? If not, I don't want him. Nangong Li slowly closed his eyes that were filled with blood. It was said that before a person died, they would see the person they cared about the most and think of the things they cared about the most. He met Shenyuan Cheng when he was 3 years old, but he couldn't get rid of him. Shenyuan Cheng, you really are a thorn in my heart. Gu Jiao squatted down and looked at Nangong Li, muttering to himself with a dumbfounded expression. Nangong Li looked at the blurry shadow in front of him with a pale face. The shadow gradually overlapped with the figure in his mind, forming the appearance of a young Shenyuan Cheng. He coughed up blood and laughed out loud while trembling. Shenyuan Hao. He used Shenyuan Cheng's name when he was young. Perhaps it was because his childhood was the most innocent and sincere. I do deserve to die. I betrayed you, betrayed the Shenyuan family. My death is not regrettable. You came to me for revenge. I'm not surprised, and there's nothing to feel wronged. But you really think that the Nangong family did all those things? You're wrong. Ha ha ha, you're very wrong. The Nangong family can't even be considered as an accomplice. They're just a hunting dog that wants a piece of fat meat. He used the last of his strength and arched his body. His blood-stained hand grabbed Gu Jiao's collar tightly. The person who really harmed the Shenyuan family is... Digression. Do you have a monthly ticket for me to secretly add a new chapter? The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_826/1073210063. HTML Genius memorized this website's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Biku Gu mobile reading website, zhbqg.com. Chapter 692. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are available here. Lu Lang. Lu Lang, where did you go? Lu Lang. It was Mu Chuan's voice. Gu Jiao had been gone for too long. Mu Chuan waited for her for a long time, so he went out to look for her with Zhao Wei, Yuan Shao, and the others. Along with them was a little palace made from Zhonghe Palace. This was a small courtyard in Zhonghe Palace. Usually, no one would come here. Other than a small wooden hut where sweeping tools were placed, there was only a high wall and a few big trees. At this time, Gu Jiao was squatting under a big tree near the high wall. In front of her was a man lying in a pool of blood. Behind her, there were 3 unconscious eunuchs lying near the small wooden hut. What's going on? Yuan Shao asked, dumbfounded. Lu Lang. Mu Chuan strode over. Yuan Shao and Zhao Wei also quickly followed. When they passed by the small wooden hut, they coincidentally looked at the 3 eunuchs lying on the ground. Yuan Shao shook his head at the 2 of them. He could feel that the 3 eunuchs were no longer breathing. Zhao Wei looked worriedly at the little figure who was squatting on the ground, drawing circles or doing something else. Lu Lang will be okay, right? Is he injured or scared out of his wits? At first glance, it was obvious that this was a terrible murder scene. What kind of normal person would squat there? Even if they didn't run away, they should hide far away to avoid any involvement, right? The 3 of them quickly came to Xiao Liulong's side. Xiao Lulang was on the left, while Yuan Shao and Zhao Wei were on the right. Zhao Wei felt that he was too far away from Xiao Lulang, so he simply bypassed the man on the ground and came to the opposite side of Gu Jiao. The little palace maid who had come with them had already gone to call for help. "Lu Lang, are you okay?" The three of them asked in unison. After practicing bowing together for a long time, the tacit understanding between them had improved. Gu Jiao said, "Oh, it's okay." Among the three of them, only Mu Chuan had seen Nan Gongli before. Unfortunately, Nan Gongli's face was covered in blood and dirt, and his face was hard to recognize. In addition, Mu Chuan was so worried about Xiao Lu Lang that he did not recognize him. Mu Chuan frowned and asked, "What's going on?" Gu Jiao answered honestly, "He was killed." Mu Chuan looked at Gu Jiao in confusion. "Then why are you squatting here? Wait to be arrested as a murderer?" "I am the murderer," Gu Jiao said. "My legs are numb." He was really numb and couldn't get up. Mu Chuan, Yuan Shao, Zhao Wei, Mu Chuan and Yuan Shao each stretched out a hand to support Gu Jiao. On the other side, the little palace maid brought the eunuch in charge of Zhonghe Hall over. It was Li Sandy, and there were a few palace guards following behind him. They were not the imperial guards. Only the emperor had the right to command the imperial guards. At this moment, the emperor was in court in the throne room, so Li Sandy had not reported it yet. Li Sandy immediately saw the students from Tianqiong Academy. His gaze fell on Gu Jiao's lapel. Mu Chuan and the others followed his gaze and their minds buzzed. Oh my God! Why was there a bloody handprint on Liolong's lapel? Just now, Gu Jiao was squatting there and hugging her knees. Her lapel was blocked, so they did not immediately notice the bloody handprint. Nan Gongli had left it on her lapel when he grabbed her lapel to leave his last words. According to Gu Jiao's original plan, she would run away as soon as Nan Gongli breathed his last. It didn't matter if her lapel was dirty because she was wearing an extra layer underneath. However, her legs were numb. Plan A was to announce her death. Fortunately, she was quick-witted and came up with Plan B. Next, they executed Plan B. The little palace maid had already reported the situation to Li Sandy. Li Sandy knew that Mu Chuan and the other two came later. At that time, only Xiao Lu Lang was at the crime scene. Li Sandy confirmed the identities of the three eunuchs. The young eunuch's surname was Hu. Everyone called him Mustache. The other two eunuchs were called Tong Chen and Wei Shi. The two of them were not eunuchs working in Zhonghe Palace. They were from the catering department of the 12 supervisors. The catering department was in charge of the imperial cuisine, palace food, banquets, and other matters. Due to their special functions, the 12 supervisors had the right to enter the three main halls. Today, the two of them came to inquire about the monarch's lunch. But didn't the two of them leave after asking? Why were they killed here? What was even stranger was that there were gunny sacks and ropes on the ground. What were they doing? Are you sure they were killed? Li Sandy asked the palace guards. The three of them nodded. They were very sure. Gu Jiao looked at Li Sandy and the others. The deaths of the three eunuchs had nothing to do with her. They were accidentally killed by Nan Gongli's internal energy. Li Sandy went to look at the man under the tree. Compared to the three eunuchs, this man's death was more tragic. His chest was pierced by a sharpened branch. The other party did not even take the murder weapon away. They just arrogantly left it at the scene. Li Sandy had a premonition of the seriousness of the matter. He was the eunuch in charge of Zhonghe Palace. A murder happened under his watch. No matter how he looked at it, it was his negligence. He did not understand. The imperial palace was heavily guarded. Who would have the guts to cause trouble in the imperial palace? Didn't you see anyone suspicious? He asked the guards who were accompanying him. The guards shook their heads. Gu Jiao was not surprised. The palace was heavily guarded, but for a master like Nan Gongli, it was not too difficult to avoid being seen. In addition, Nan Gongli probably knew the shifts and patrols of the palace guards like the back of his hand. That was why he was able to take advantage of the loophole. Nan Gongli should have carefully chosen the location of the murder. It was completely a blind spot of Zhonghe Palace. Li Sandi finally came in front of Nan Gongli. This time, he carefully looked at Nan Gongli's face. The more he looked, the more he felt that something was wrong. He took out a handkerchief and wiped off the blood on Nan Gongli's face. Then, he heard a cry of surprise and stood up. Eunuch Li. The guards thought that this person had come back to life and rushed over to protect Li Sandi. But when they saw the face that had been wiped off the blood, they showed the same shocked expression as Li Sandi. This was a serious matter. Li Sandi immediately asked Gu Jiao about the specific situation. Who was the murderer? What had happened? What was the bloody handprint on his lapel? I'm not sure. I didn't see it. When I came, the other 3 were already dead. This one was still breathing. I know a little about medicine, so I wanted to save him. He grabbed my lapel as if he wanted to tell me who the murderer was. Unfortunately, he died before he could finish. Gu Jiao said calmly. Her expression was very magnanimous, without a trace of guilt. Mu Chuan quickly said, I can testify. Xiao Lulang really knows medicine. Zhao Wei agreed. Yes. We can all testify. On the day of our duel with Pingyong Academy, the students of Black Bamboo Academy and Songshan Academy fought fiercely. In the end, the walls of the attic collapsed. Xiao Lulang was there to save them. The deans were also there. If you don't believe me, you can send someone to ask. Yuan Xiao added, there's also Angua Gong. Xiao Lulang treated Angua Gong's illness. In fact, Gu Jiao's knowledge of medicine and Gu Jiao saving Nan Gongli's life did not necessarily have a causal relationship. However, as long as it was proven that her medical skills were real, her action of staying to save the injured was valid. If they wanted to overturn this fact, they had to find strong enough evidence. From the bloody handprint on her body, there were only 2 possibilities for her to appear here. She could either save someone or kill someone. There was already a motive to save someone. She was a doctor and had a good heart. She would not leave someone to die. It was hard to say the motive for killing someone. Mu Chuan said, Xiao Lulang is not from Yen Kingdom. He has only been in Shangdu for a month. He did not know General Nangong or the 3 eunuchs. Why would he kill them? Maybe he was ordered by someone? A guard guessed. Mu Chuan laughed. Ordered General Nangong to sneak into His Majesty's Zhonghe Palace? Or ordered the 3 eunuchs to line up here and wait for him to kill them? Yes, the appearance of the 4 eunuchs here was indeed a big doubt in the case. No matter how they looked at it, Xiao Lulang did not have the ability to get all 4 of them here. Mu Chuan continued, the most important thing is that General Nangong is highly skilled in martial arts. Xiao Lulang had not left for long. Do you think that a student from Qianqiong Academy could kill the famous General Nangong of Yen Kingdom in such a short time with a branch? Mu Chuan's words struck a chord in their hearts. Yes, putting aside the motive and the timing of the crime, it was ridiculous that a student from a lower country could kill a famous general of a higher country. However, it was not enough for Li Sandi to believe it. It was related to General Nangong, so the king had to believe it too. Li Sandi personally went to wait outside the throne room. When the king arrived, he reported to him about what happened in the Zhonghe Palace. The king's face turned ugly. Li Sandi knelt on the ground. He was so scared that his back was soaked in cold sweat. There were many suspicious points in this case. The first one was why Nan Gongli sneaked into the palace. In fact, this crime alone was enough for the king to sentence him to death. However, it was one thing to be sentenced to death by the king, but it was another story to be killed by someone else. Zhang Dequan. This servant is here. Call the Supreme Court Minister and the Minister of Justice here. Yes. The king wanted to thoroughly investigate this case. The king continued, also, take that student to the imperial prison and torture him. There were 49 types of torture in the imperial prison. There was nothing that couldn't be asked. If the student lied, the imperial prison would ask the truth. If he endured all the punishments, the king would not pursue the matter no matter what the truth was. The king had said that as long as he endured all the torture in the imperial prison, he would be released on the spot even if he was guilty. Unfortunately, no one had succeeded so far. There were many who died halfway through the torture. Zhang Dequan first sent people to the Ministry of Justice and the Supreme Court. Then, he personally went to escort Gu Jiao. After a while, he returned to the main hall of the Zhonghe Palace. His expression was a bit complicated. The king sat behind the desk and glanced at him. "What's wrong?" Zhang Dequan said in a dilemma. He wasn't taken to the imperial prison. The king closed his eyes to rest. "He committed suicide?" Zhang Dequan said. "No." The king said indifferently, "Then he confessed?" "Not really." Zhang Dequan said embarrassedly, "He was taken away by the young princess." The young princess said that the student was her teacher. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel is updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. There are all the novels that can't be found online here. https://www.zhhbqg.com/89642_826/1073033941. HTML Genius memorized this site's address in 1 second. www.zhhbqg.com Bikuj mobile reading website. zhhbqg.com. Chapter 693. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels that cannot be found on the internet are all available here. The king was a swift and decisive person. When he said that he wanted the young princess to start her education, he immediately sent her to the Imperial Academy. After entering through the Meridian Gate, the first thing she saw was the throne room, followed by the Zhonghe Hall and the Baohe Hall. The Imperial Academy was in the Baohe Hall. The students in the Imperial Academy were all members of the royal family. Everyone was much older than the young princess. Although the teachers taught in batches, it was really difficult for the 4-year-old princess to sit obediently and listen to the heavenly books for the entire morning. Thus, once school was over, she could not wait to find the king. She did not want to go to school anymore. After the king finished his court session, he would rest or read some memorials in the Zhonghe Hall. At that time, the young princess thought that the king had finished his court session and hurried to the Zhonghe Hall to look for him. Unexpectedly, she did not see the king. Instead, she saw Gu Jiao, who was taken away by Zhang Dequan. The young princess's eyes lit up. "Teacher, why are you in the palace? Are you here to teach me? Quick, take me away. I don't want to go to the imperial tutor's class anymore." Then, the young princess decisively took her away. Zhang Dequan did not dare to use violence in front of the young princess. After all, if he scared the young princess and made her cry, the king would behead him. After Zhang Dequan finished telling the whole story, he stood there quietly like a cicada in winter. The study was very quiet. It was so quiet that it felt like there was an invisible pressure on Zhang Dequan's head. Zhang Dequan suddenly felt that he was going to die soon. "Uncle, Your Majesty." A cute little head popped in from outside the door. The king slowly opened his eyes. The young princess struggled to cross the threshold that was even taller than her calf. She had a high status in the family and usually considered herself as an elder. She was dignified and elegant. She stopped doing things like jumping around after she was 2 years old. Today, however, she was like an impatient little rabbit as she skipped over to the king's side. She grabbed the king's sleeves with her 2 small hands and said in a childish voice, "Your Majesty, uncle, can I ride a horse with my teacher?" Lingyu and the others said that I can only ride a horse if Uncle His Majesty agrees. Lingyu and the others were the palace maids who took care of the young princess. The monarch said, "I thought you didn't dare to ride a horse?" The young princess said confidently, I will dare to do it if I learn it." The monarch looked at the little fellow and said, "How about I ask Han to teach you how to ride a horse?" Ask Han to give you a small black wind mount. The black wind mount was a precious horse that everyone envied, and the little black wind mount was even more precious. However, the young commandery princess was not interested in the black wind cavalry at all. She asked in surprise, "You want to change my teacher?" Without waiting for the king to say anything, she looked at the king with an incomparably hurt expression and questioned him from the depths of her soul. "Why?" "Very good. You are the second person who dares to question the monarch like this. The first was Shen Yuan Li. He is already dead." Zhang Dequan broke out in cold sweat for the young princess. But soon, he realized that he was too naive. He should be the one breaking out in cold sweat. Seeing that the monarch did not answer, the young princess pouted her lips and her eyes became filled with grievance. In the next second, she took a deep breath and raised her head. Her two small arms fluttered behind her back as she burst into tears. Zhang Dequan saw that the monarch's dragon body trembled a little. When the young princess cried, it would definitely shock the heavens and earth, make ghosts and gods weep, and cause the mountains to collapse and the earth to crack. It could be said that with the strength of one person, she had the strength of thousands of soldiers and horses. If it was not for the fact that the Yen Kingdom's mad monarch could not handle anything, one of the things that happened would definitely be the young princess crying. Therefore, it was not difficult to understand why the monarch had ordered the people who made the young princess cry to be killed. "I won't change your teacher, I won't change him." The monarch's face darkened. He was defeated by his little niece's invincible killing move. The young princess stopped crying in a second and bowed in a dignified manner. She raised her small chin victoriously and said, "Thank you, Your Majesty. Then I will go and find my teacher to ride a horse." She lifted her small skirt and jumped out like a little rabbit. Because of the unknown assassin in the palace was worried that it would threaten the monarch's safety. The palace strengthened its security, and the meeting with the monarch could only be temporarily cancelled. However, when the monarch came from the throne room, except for Gu Jiao who was taken away by the young princess, Wu Fuzi and the others were lucky enough to see the monarch's face. For them, it was already a blessing to be able to see the monarch in such a close distance in their lifetime. When they went back, they could still brag about it for a few taels of silver. However, when they thought about Nan Gongli, they could not help but feel a little scared. They actually encountered a murder case, and Lu Lang was also involved. He was almost taken away as the murderer. Fortunately, the young princess appeared in time. Wu Fuzi rubbed his chest that was still very nervous at this moment. He looked at Gu Jiao helplessly and said, "Why do I feel that since I met you, my life has become so exciting? Taming the Horse King was exciting, competing in bowls was exciting, and even entering the palace was so exciting." Wu Fuzi said bitterly, "Do you know that I was almost scared to death by you just now?" Gu Jiao, "Oh. Wu Fuzi, you guys. Who do you think entered the palace to kill General Nangong?" Yuan Shao asked. "Sure, lower your voice." Mu Chuan lowered his voice and said, "Lu Lang is the only eyewitness. Even if he didn't see anything, what if the murderer thinks that he saw it? Or what if he thinks that Nan Gongli told Lu Lang the murderer's name before he died?" Yuan Shao was shocked and covered his mouth. I haven't thought about this. According to this, before the murderer is caught, won't Lu Lang be in danger?" Wu Fuzi thought deeply and nodded seriously. "I agree with Mu Chuan. After the news in the palace spreads, the murderer may harm Lu Lang. Lu Lang, I'll go to your house to pick you up for school these few days." Gu Jiao, "I'm the murderer, thank you." Zhao Wei sighed. "The Supreme Court and the Ministry of Justice are both investigating the case. I hope they can find something soon. Otherwise, if the murderer is always at large, Lu Lang won't be able to live in peace." Mu Chuan and Yuan Shao nodded in unison. Wu Fuzi didn't say anything. Gu Jiao looked at them and asked, "General Nangong is dead. Are you all sad?" Zhao Wei said, "General Nangong is the heir of the Nangong family. He's a famous general in the Yen Kingdom. It's sad to think that he died in the palace. What a pitiful situation." Gu Jiao thought of the words that Nan Gongli said before he died when he hallucinated. If what he said was true, then there was another story behind the Shenyuan family's rebellion. Moreover, the Shenyuan family shouldn't have been defeated. It was Nangong Li who stabbed Shenyuan Cheng in the back. Nangong Li betrayed his childhood friend and the Shenyuan family that promoted the Nangong family. Most people didn't know anything about it. The public opinion was already biased towards the winning side. Otherwise, why would they say that the winner was king and the loser was in the wrong? The Shenyuan family rebelled and everyone had the right to punish them. However, the Nangong family who betrayed the Shenyuan family became the heroes of the world. They were interrogated by the Ministry of Justice and the Supreme Court when they were in the palace. Therefore, they returned to the city a little later. It was already dark when they arrived at the academy. Wu Fuzi asked Mu Chuan and the others to return to their dormitory first. Lu Lang, I'll send you back. No need. My house is very close. I can go back by myself. No, I'm worried. Wu Fuzi insisted. Gu Jiao sighed. Okay. Wu Fuzi sent Gu Jiao back to the rented alley in a carriage. Gu Jiao jumped off the carriage. I'm home. Wu Fuzi, you can go back without worry. Wu Fuzi lifted the curtain and paused. You must be careful these few days. I think you should move to the academy. There are guards in the academy and I'm here too. Gu Jiao said, I'll think about it. If she didn't say so, Gu Jiao was worried that Wu Fuzi would dawdle with her until dawn. Wu Fuzi got a satisfactory answer and got on the carriage to go back. Just as Gu Jiao turned around and was about to open the door of the courtyard, a long sword was pressed against her neck from behind. The cold blade reflected a cold light in the dark night and reflected in Gu Jiao's cold and calm eyes. Gu Jiao glanced at the sword with the corner of her eyes. Who are you? Mu Qingchen's cold voice sounded behind Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao turned around and looked at him without blinking. You're back in the capital? Just now. Mu Qingchen looked at Gu Jiao with a complicated expression. I heard about what happened in the palace. Did you kill Nangong Li? Last time I saw you being chased by Nangong Li on the street, I hid you in the carriage. When I asked you what happened, you told me that you threw a stone at Nangong Li, so he chased you. You vented your anger on him because his son, Nangong Lin, played dirty on the boxing field and deliberately wanted to frame you. I asked you how you recognized him as Nangong Lin's father. You said you heard the servants call him General Nangong. I believed all of it. But how do you explain what happened in the palace today? You told them that you didn't know Nangong Li. You were lying. You've been lying all along. Tell me, did you kill Nangong Li? The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel is more complete and updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. There are novels with connotations that can't be found on the internet here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_826/1073033256. HTML Genius memorized the website address in a second. www.zhbqg.com Bikuj mobile reading website, zhbqg.com. Chapter 694. Please scan the QR code below to download the app for more exciting content. The novel will be updated more quickly. Millions of novels will be read for free. There are all kinds of novels that can't be found on the internet here. No. Gu Jiao denied it. Mu Qingchen looked at her coldly, trying to see if there was a trace of guilt in her eyes. However, to his disappointment, Mu Qingchen didn't see anything. If Gu Jiao was asked to play the role of love and hate, she would probably be dazzling. However, she didn't feel guilty because she was acting as herself. Flaw. It was impossible. However, whether Gu Jiao felt guilty or not was different from whether Mu Qingchen believed it or not. Mu Qingchen was not as gullible as Li Sandy. There was no logical blind spot in his thinking that could be led at will. He had his own inference and would not be affected by Gu Jiao. He clenched the hilt of his sword and said with cold eyes, "You won't save Nangongli. There is only one possibility for you to be at the scene. You killed him." Mu Qingchen had been with his classmate for a long time. Although he didn't know him well, he could tell that he was not a person who would repay evil with good. Since he had a grudge with Nangongli, how could he save him at the risk of being regarded as a killer? It was his classmate's mercy that he didn't stab Nangongli in the back. Gu Jiao spread her hands and said, "Whatever you say." Mu Qingchen kept clenching the hilt of his sword. His anger had reached a certain peak. In fact, he couldn't tell what he was angry about. He was simply angry that he had done evil in Chengdu and assassinated a famous general of the Yan kingdom. Or he was angry that he had been hiding a lot from him and had never been honest with him. "Who are you? What's your purpose in the Yan kingdom?" Gu Jiao didn't say anything. Mu Qingchen was even angrier. Compared to quarreling with him and asking him why he didn't believe him, Gu Jiao's attitude of not wanting to say anything was the most maddening. Mu Qingchen gritted his teeth and said, "Why don't you say anything? Do you admit it?" Gu Jiao looked at him and said calmly, "If there's nothing else, I'll go in first. If you want to fight, do it another day. I don't want to fight in front of my house." With that, Gu Jiao didn't even look at the sword against her neck. She turned around and pushed open the door. Mu Qingchen said coldly, "Stop right there. If you don't make yourself clear today, don't blame me for making a move on you." Gu Jiao ignored him. Gu Jiao had already pushed open the courtyard door. Mu Qingchen was infuriated when he saw Gu Jiao turning a deaf ear to his threat. He raised his sword and stabbed at Gu Jiao's back. Gu Jiao didn't want to fight with Mu Qingchen, so she just dodged to one side. However, Mu Qingchen was determined to force Gu Jiao to make a move. He quickly made his second move. At this moment, a series of hurried footsteps came from the courtyard and came to the door. "Jiao Jiao, are you back?" Creak, the courtyard door was opened, and little Jing Kong's little head popped out. Mu Qingchen's eyes flickered, and he quickly withdrew his sword. However, there was still a trace of sword chi that he couldn't retract in time. The courtyard door was only opened a crack. If he pulled her out, she would be injured. If he pushed her in, she would fall down. In a flash, Gu Jiao stepped forward and bent down to protect little Jing Kong, blocking the sword chi. Mu Qingchen didn't intend to kill Gu Jiao. Besides, he had already absorbed most of the sword chi. It was just a wisp of remnant sword chi. Even so, Gu Jiao's back was still cut open. Her clothes were torn, revealing a small piece of her smooth skin and a circle of cloth wrapped tightly around her chest. Mu Qingchen was slightly stunned. He only felt that the small piece of skin was dazzling. He didn't have time to think about what the circle of cloth wrapped around Gu Jiao's body was. He turned around, and his mind buzzed for some reason. Little Jing Kong didn't see Mu Qingchen outside the door. He thought that only Gu Jiao was back. He wanted to call out Jiao Jiao, but Gu Jiao raised her index finger and pressed it gently on his little mouth. Mu Qingchen wanted to turn around, but he somehow restrained himself. He squeezed the long sword in his hand and said in a low voice, "I'll find out the truth and evidence. If it's really you, I won't let it go." After that, he held the sword and stepped into the night with a heavy gaze. Gu Jiao closed the courtyard door and didn't let little Jing Kong see her back. Otherwise, he would be worried again. Little Jing Kong tilted his head and said, "Jiao Jiao, who was outside just now? I didn't understand what he said." "It's nothing. A classmate who sent me back." Gu Jiao touched his little head and asked, "Why are you here?" Little Jing Kong said, "The academy is on holiday. My brother-in-law sent me here." Gu Jiao asked, "Your brother-in-law is here too?" Little Jing Kong shook his head and said, "He was here at noon, but he went out now. He said he'll pick me up tomorrow, or brother Chang Feng will pick me up." Xiao Hang must have something important to do since he sent little Jing Kong here. Gu Jiao guessed right. Xiao Hang did go to do something. Gu Chang Feng was there too. Xiao Hung first sent little Jing Kong to Gu Jiao and handed him over to Mistress Nan and Master Lu. Then, he went to Qianxiang Pavilion and returned to the inner city with Gu Changfeng. Gu Jiao didn't tell anyone about her assassination plan in the imperial palace, but Xiao Hang could guess it. There were two people who knew Gu Jiao the best in the world. One was Gu Yen, and the other was Xiao Hang. The moment Nan Gongli left the city to find Gu Jiao, the two of them had their eyes on him. Gu Chengfeng followed his carriage all the way. Xiao Hang first sent little Jing Kong to Mistress Nan and Master Lu. After Nan Gongli left Tianqiong Academy, he went straight to the imperial palace. Gu Chengfeng and Xiao Hang didn't dare to chase too close. Fortunately, Nan Gongli didn't dare to stop his carriage too close to the imperial palace. Nan Gongli contacted an imperial palace eunuch and sneaked into the imperial palace by hiding in a box of ingredients. Nan Gongli's bodyguard stayed in the carriage and waited. The news of Nan Gongli's death didn't spread out so quickly. It wasn't until evening that his bodyguard heard from passers-by that General Nan Gong was killed in the imperial palace. Others didn't know the inside story, but how could his bodyguard not know? Nan Gongli went to kill that student from Tianqiong Academy. If something happened to Nan Gongli, it must be that student who killed him. The bodyguard hurriedly drove the carriage to report to the Nan Gong family. It wasn't good to make a move on the street. Xiao Heng spread out the map of the inner city and said to Gu Chengfeng, "Go east." Gu Chengfeng drove the carriage and said, "Don't make a mistake." Xiao Heng said, "It can't be wrong." They passed through an alley to the east and coincidentally bumped into the carriage of his trusted bodyguard. The trusted bodyguard seemed to have noticed that he was being watched and turned around to pass through another alley. Xiao Hang looked in the direction of the alley and said, "Turn around and go to Nanyu Street." Finally, the two of them blocked the bodyguard at the corner of Nanyu Street. After getting rid of him, no one would know why Nan Gongli entered the imperial palace today. Nan Gongli's death caused an uproar in Chengdu. There were three major doubts about this matter. First, why did Nan Gongli appear in the imperial palace? There was no record of him entering the imperial palace. In other words, he sneaked into the imperial palace. The servants of the Nan Gong family said that he went out with a bodyguard named Lu Dong. The Ministry of Justice immediately sent people to search for this bodyguard named Lu Dong, but they found him dead on the street. He was stabbed in the vital gate by a hidden weapon and died in a single blow. The murderer obviously had a strong anti-reconnaissance ability. There were no clues left at the scene, and no witnesses were found nearby. The case was in a deadlock as soon as there was a breakthrough. The second biggest doubt was the three eunuchs who died at the scene of the crime. Two of the three eunuchs were from the Imperial Kitchen Department, and the other was from the Zhonghe Palace. The three of them didn't interact in private, nor were they close on the surface. It was unknown why they appeared there together. There were sacks and ropes beside them, and they looked like they were going to catch something. After the coroner's examination, he speculated that they were killed by Nan Gongli's internal force. Why can't it be the murderer's internal force? In the morgue, the Chancellor of the Supreme Court asked the coroner. The Chancellor of the Ministry of Justice was also there. He was also curious about this. The coroner said, "I've also examined General Nangong's body. General Nangong didn't have any internal injuries, so I boldly speculate that the murderer doesn't have internal force." The Chancellor of the Supreme Court frowned and said, "Without internal force, he could use a tree branch to kill the famous General Nangong." "Old man's son, do you understand what you're saying? You didn't make a mistake, did you?" The coroner said, "Neither servile nor overbearing, I've examined corpses for dozens of years. I don't dare say that I've never made a mistake. If you don't believe me, you can find another coroner to examine General Nangong's body." The Chancellor of the Supreme Court naturally found one. The result was the same as Old Man's son's. If he didn't need to use internal force to kill General Nangong, then he didn't need to use internal force to kill the three eunuchs. Based on this logic, the coroner deduced that the internal force that killed the three eunuchs came from Nan Gongli. Thus, the third suspicious point of the case appeared. Who could have killed Nan Gongli so easily without using internal energy or without using internal energy at all? The Chancellor of the Supreme Court, Yang Chang, and the Chancellor of the Ministry of Justice, Dong Wei, investigated for a day and a night without finding anything. The Chancellor of the Supreme Court, Yang Chang, said that Lu Dong is clearly the best breakthrough point. As long as we can ask him what Nan Gongli did in the palace, the truth of the case will be easily solved. The Chancellor of the Ministry of Justice, Dong Wei, said, he's already dead. There's no point in talking about this. The Supreme Court and the Ministry of Justice were both outside Duan Men's court. However, the Supreme Court was in the west and the Ministry of Justice was in the east. Seeing that the sky was about to brighten, it was impossible to go back home to rest. They could only go to the Yamen to change their clothes and prepare to go to court to report the situation of the case to the king. When they were about to go their separate ways, Yang Chang saw that Chancellor Dong was deep in thought. He couldn't help but ask, "What are you thinking about?" Chancellor Dong said, "I'm thinking, who killed Nan Gongli? And he was killed in the palace. This feeling is like what?" Yang Chang asked. Chancellor Dong shook his head. "I don't have any conclusive evidence. However, when I stood at the scene of the crime and looked at Nan Gongli's body and the tree branch that was thrown at the scene, I seemed to feel a murderous desire for revenge." This was one of Chancellor Dong's abilities. He was a judge with a keen intuition for cases. His intuition was accurate in most cases. They had once caught a serial killer, but they also had no clue. However, one time, the killer and Chancellor Dong met on the street. With just one glance, Chancellor Dong pointed at the person and said, "He is the killer." Therefore, when Chancellor Dong said that the killer was out for revenge, Yang Chang didn't immediately deny it. Yang Chang said thoughtfully, "Did Nan Gongli offend anyone?" Chancellor Dong said, "You should ask, who among the people Nan Gongli offended could easily kill him? Have you carefully observed the shape of the tree branch? Don't you think it looks like a spear?" Yang Chang recalled and nodded, "That's right. The front end is sharpened and the length is similar to a spear." Chancellor Dong said, "As far as I know, only the Xian Yuan family's spear technique can have such power without using internal energy." Yang Chang frowned. "You mean, Nan Gongli was killed by the Xian Yuan family? Everyone in the Xian Yuan family is dead. The only one left is the former crown princess, who was also crippled of her martial arts. Your inference is not valid." Chancellor Dong pondered for a moment and said, "What if there is someone who is lucky enough to survive?" Yang Chang said with certainty, "There is no what if. Don't forget, all the bodies of the Xian Yuan family were examined one by one. They were nailed to the coffins before they were carried away by Crown Prince Jing and his brother." Chancellor Dong said with a serious expression, "Shenyuan Cheng. When I saw the murder weapon during the day, I thought of him for some reason." Yang Chang said with amusement, "He is even less likely to be the killer. Among all the men of the Xian Yuan family, he died the most tragic death. He was nailed to the city gate tower by his own red tasseled spear. Thousands of arrows pierced his heart and he died. His body was hung there for an entire month. Crown Prince Jing spent almost all of his family's wealth in exchange for the bodies of the Xian Yuan family's men. If there was a single survivor, Crown Prince Jing would not have to go to such lengths. Crown Prince Jing, the current Duke of Anghua." Yang Chang paused and patted Chancellor Dong's shoulder. He said earnestly, "Elder Dong, I understand that you were promoted by the Xian Yuan family in your early years. You have always been brooding over the fact that you did not plead for mercy for the Xian Yuan family. However, you should also understand that you personally took over the case. The Xian Yuan family did indeed rebel. As officials of the imperial court, you and I cannot be associated with traitors. We cannot sacrifice ourselves for the sake of righteousness. Today, when you mention the Xian Yuan family in front of me, I will pretend that I did not hear anything. When you are in front of His Majesty, you must keep your mouth shut. Do not offend His Majesty." "Elder Yang," Chancellor Dong called out to him as he turned and walked towards the Supreme Court. Yang Chang turned back to look at him. "What is it?" Chancellor Dong's expression was complicated. That incident back then, was it really not wrong? Yong Chong asked, "What incident are you referring to?" Chancellor Dong said, "You know." Yong Chang's eyes darkened. He said seriously, "Elder Dong, you only need to remember that what the top 10 aristocratic families did was righteous. Nangong Li's death caused an uproar among the aristocratic families. Although Nangong Li was not the eldest son of the Nangong family, he was more outstanding than his elder brother. The Nangong family had always trained him as the successor. Who would have thought that he would be killed in the palace? The Nangong family was furious. He pressured the Ministry of Justice and the Supreme Court to find the murderer within 3 days. However, this was impossible. Not to mention that they did not have a clue now. Even if they had a clue, they would not be able to thoroughly investigate this murder case with great fanfare. That was because the emperor's birthday was coming. Everyone in Shang City was busy celebrating the emperor's birthday. At this critical moment, if they caused a commotion about Nangong Li's murder case, wouldn't it bring bad luck to the emperor? Moreover, Nangong Li sneaked into the palace without permission, which more or less made the emperor unhappy. After the emperor's birthday, they would thoroughly investigate in a high-profile manner. Gu Jiao knew nothing about what happened in the imperial court. She went to the academy as usual. Mu Qingchen also came to class. He was still sitting in the second seat in the last row, close to the back door on the right. The first seat was Gu Jiao's seat. Everyone had been used to Mu Qingchen and Gu Jiao sitting at the same table, so no one felt strange when they saw him sitting there. Only Gu Jiao clearly felt that Mu Qingchen's aura had changed. He looked at Gu Jiao with a very guarded look. Gu Jiao sat down without changing her expression. Zhou Tong, who was sitting in the front row, turned around and looked at the two with a smile. "Sure enough, Lu Lang, you have a big reputation." As soon as you came back to class, young Master Qingchen also came. Yes, she had a big reputation, so big that the first young master of Shang City personally came to monitor her. Mu Qingchen did not speak, but his aura was frighteningly cold. Zhou Tong shrank his neck and covered his face with a book. He whispered to Gu Jiao, "What's wrong with young Master Qingchen? Is he unhappy?" Gu Jiao thought to herself, "With your voice, half of the classroom can hear it. Why are you still covering your face with a book?" "You can ask him yourself," Gu Jiao said. Zhou Tong curled his lips. He did not dare to ask. Zhou Tong changed the topic. "Hey, Lu Lang, did you go to the palace yesterday to see the king? Is the 10,000 taels worth it?" "What 10,000 taels?" Gu Jiao's focus was always on the gold. Zhou Tong said, "It said that the prize for the second place is 10,000 taels. Even the servants of our academy said so." Gu Jiao took out the book from her bag. 1,000 taels. If it was 10,000 taels, she would have buried Mu Chuan alive. No, she also wanted to bury Mu Chuan alive now. Forget it. Since she had taken this opportunity to kill Nangong Li, she would bury him later. The king's birthday banquet was set for the 10th of June. All the officials of the imperial court and above, as well as the aristocratic families in Shang City, had received invitations to the banquet. The day before the banquet, Gu Jiao heard the news she had been waiting for a long time. The state preceptor had returned to Shang City. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found on the internet can be found here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_826/1072844656. HTML Genius memorized the website address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Biku Gu mobile reading website, zhbqg.com. Chapter 695. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found on the internet are all available here. Tianqiong Academy was on holiday today. Gu Jiao heard from a passing merchant when she went to the market to buy vegetables that the state preceptor returned to Chengdu in the middle of the night. Early in the morning, there was a long line outside the state preceptor's hall to see the state preceptor. So many people want to see the state preceptor? The vegetable vendor asked the merchant sitting next to him drinking soy milk. He said to Gu Jiao, 10 knife coins. Gu Jiao handed the 10 knife coins to the vegetable vendor and put 2 fresh large gourds into the small basket behind her. The merchant drank half a bowl in big gulps and said with sweat all over his head, "Of course. The line is 3 miles long. The carriage almost couldn't pass. If I wasn't in a hurry to leave the city to do business, I would also line up there." Last time when Gu Jiao went to the state preceptor's hall to ask about the state preceptor's whereabouts, the eldest disciple Yi Qing told her that the state preceptor would come back at the beginning of the month if he was early. At the end of the month at the latest. It would be best if he didn't have to wait until the end of the month. After all, Gu Yan's condition would get worse the longer it was delayed. Gu Jiao returned to the house with the vegetables she bought. "You're back." Nan Shenyang looked at the sweat on her forehead and hurriedly took her small basket. She said, "I didn't expect Chengdu to be so hot this year. You must be bored." She was talking about Gu Jiao's chest wrap. Gu Jiao had grown too well in the past 2 years. In order to cover her body, she had to wrap herself tightly. Nan Shenyang felt hot for her. Gu Jiao said, "It's okay." She could bear it. Nan Shenyang said with heartache, "It's really hard for you. I boiled some mint water. It will be ready in a while." Nan Shenyang, "I don't want to drink it. I want to go to the inner city." Gu Jiao said, "The state preceptor is back." Mistress Nan's eyes lit up. "Really?" Gu Jiao nodded. "Yes, I heard the news of the market just now, so I want to try my luck and see if I can meet the state preceptor." Madame Nan looked at Gu Yan, who was sunbathing listlessly in the corridor. She understood that Gu Yan's condition could not be delayed any longer. "Is it true that the earlier the operation, the higher the chance of recovery?" "Yes," Gu Jiao said. "If they delayed for too long, the surgery might be useless." Madame Nan did not urge her to stay any longer. She asked Master Lu to prepare a carriage for Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao took out the token of the chess sage of the 6 kingdoms. She rummaged through the table and said, Where's the token? I clearly put it here." "Here." Old Mr. Meng appeared at the door with a brocade bag in his hand. The token was inside. "Oh." Gu Jiao walked over and took the brocade pouch. "Oh, you took it." Old Mr. Meng said casually, "Well, I just took it. Are you planning to enter the city alone?" "Yes." Gu Jiao said. Old Mr. Meng cleared his throat. "You're not bringing me?" Gu Jiao looked at him strangely. "Why should I bring you?" Old Mr. Meng said, "To the state preceptor's palace." Gu Jiao said seriously, "The state preceptor knows the chess sage of the 6 kingdoms. You'll be exposed if you go." Old Mr. Meng, the real chess sage of the 6 kingdoms, was speechless. Thinking of something, Gu Jiao said, "No, you still have to go. Otherwise, you won't be able to enter the city later." However, old Mr. Meng really needed to enter the city today. He was going to meet someone near the state preceptor's palace. It was on the same way as Gu Jiao. Master Lu had prepared the carriage. Master Lu had planned to use another horse. However, the Horse King beat up Master Lu and his companion. Then, it valiantly came out to pull the carriage. It did not forget to bring Gu Jiao's small medicine box and small basket onto the carriage. It was very considerate of its service. After Gu Jiao got into the carriage, old Mr. Meng got in as well. Gu Jiao put down the curtain and said to the Horse King, "It's done. Let's go." The Horse King opened its big mouth, raised its front hooves, and rushed out with a whoosh. Old Mr. Meng was caught off guard. He leaned back and hit the wall of the carriage with a bang. The Horse King ran with a whoosh. A gust of wind blew the carriage's curtains high up into the air. The curtains crashed against the walls of the carriage, making crackling noises. Old Mr. Meng was blown out of his mind. He spread out his arms and leaned against the wall of the carriage without any resistance. He felt that he could not even open his eyes. Even the wrinkles on his face were about to be blown flat by the wind. What kind of crazy horse was this? The carriage galloped on the street, overtaking every car it saw. When it stopped to pass through the checkpoint of the inner city gate, old Mr. Meng had been blown into a lion. This time, Gu Jiao did not press old Mr. Meng's head and tell him embarrassing lines. The reason was that the guards let them pass when they saw the token of the chess sage of the Six Kingdoms. Old Mr. Meng heaved a sigh of relief. The Horse King had never been to the Grand Master Hall, so he had to show them the way. After entering the inner city, Gu Jiao sat in the outer seat of the carriage. Chengdu was particularly congested today. The carriage was stuck in the middle of the road not long after. In a room on the second floor of a tea house facing the street, a man in his 30s in a black shirt sat in front of the window, looking at the traffic jam. One of the carriages caught his attention. There was nothing strange about the carriage itself. The horse was the main attraction. The other horses stayed where they were. Only this one was restless, looking around to catch butterflies. "What kind of stupid horse is this?" the man muttered. His eyes followed the horse and landed on the coachman. The coachman was a young man in green with a red birthmark on the left side of his face. "It's him." The man's lips curled up. He actually entered the inner city. Han Shizhi followed his gaze and quickly found Gu Jiao in the carriage. He frowned. "Xiao Lulang? Master, do you know him?" The man called Master by Han Shizhi was Master Nan Sr., Qi Xian. Qi Xian remained calm and unruffled as he looked at the green-clothed youth sitting in the carriage, who was stuck in a traffic jam. He smiled faintly and said, "I told you before that I met my junior sister from the Tang sect last time. There's one more thing I didn't tell you. There's an interesting person around my junior." "Xiao Lulang." Han Shizhi was surprised. Qi Xian smiled and said, "I think I know who killed Nan Gongli." Han Shizhi frowned. "Are you saying that the murderer is Xiao Lulang?" Qi Xian smiled and shook the teacup in his hand. "I can't think of anyone else." Han Shizhi shook his head. How could he kill Nan Gongli with his martial arts? Nan Gongli has lost an arm, but even so, Xiao Lulang is definitely not Nan Gongli's match. Qi Xian said, "He defeated a few Shaolin monks last time. I remember that you guys are forbidden to use internal energy in the boxing competition." Han Shizhi said, "That's right." Qi Xian smiled and said, "How many people in Chengdu do you think can defeat a Shaolin body-refining warrior monk without using internal force? Also, didn't the autopsy results come out? Nan Gongli didn't suffer any internal injuries. He was killed by a tree branch that was used as a spear to pierce his heart. As far as I know, only the Shen Yuan family's spear technique can do that." Han Shizhi was shocked. Qi Xian looked at the young man in the carriage. "When I went to see my junior, I fought with this Xiao Lulang. Although he only used one move, I can be sure that he used the Shen Yuan family's spear technique." Han Shizhi frowned. There are two suspicious points. First, why did he kill Nan Gongli? Second, how did he know the Shen Yuan family's spear technique? Qi Xian took a sip of tea. "I don't know. This young man seems to be hiding a lot of secrets. Didn't you say that the Han family found out that Nan Gongli secretly went to the Zhao Kingdom not long ago? Not long after he came back, a few people from the Zhao Kingdom came to Chengdu. Don't you think there's a connection?" Han Shizhi said, "My second uncle guessed that those people from the Zhao Kingdom were masters that Nan Gongli brought from the Zhao Kingdom. Their purpose was to deal with our Han family. However, if what master said is true, that Nan Gongli died at the hands of Xiao Lulang, then Xiao Lulang and the Nangong family are not in cahoots." Qi Xian smiled. The relationship between people is not limited to friends. It can also be enemies. Maybe Nan Gongli offended someone in the Zhao Kingdom. Han Shitzi pondered for a moment and said seriously, if Xiao Lulang is really so powerful, then perhaps the Han family can forget about the past and consider taking him for our own use. Qi Xian put down the teacup lightly and picked up a piece of crab cake from the plate. Looking at the exquisite and delicious crab cake, he said, I'm afraid you can't bribe him. Han Shitzi was puzzled. Master, why do you say that? Qi Xian hinted with his eyes. Do you remember when you were put in a sack on the street? There, it was that boy who did it. Han Shitzi was shocked. How could it be him? Qi Xian said, I found half of a tangerine needle that was broken into a crack in the wall. That was my junior sister's favorite hidden weapon. It couldn't have been my junior sister who sneak attacked you. My junior sister is over 30 years old. Her figure is different from a young man's. Han Shitzi recalled. The one who sneak attacked me that day was indeed a young man. Qi Xian sighed with emotion. This boy is really not simple. He knows the Shenyuan family's spear skills and the Tang family's hidden weapons. Han Shitzi's expression was complicated. He dared to offend two big families at once. He is indeed not simple. Qi Xian looked at the street that was beginning to clear up. His smile faded and he said seriously, offend? No, he doesn't care about the big families at all. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_89642658002. HTML Genius remembered the website address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Biku Gu mobile reading website, m. zhbqg.com. Chapter 696. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are available here. The weather was hot and humid. After a quarter of an hour of congestion, the carriage finally started to move slowly. The first half of the journey was very congested, but it was smooth as it approached the State Master's Hall. It turned out that the people who wanted to see the State Master had been persuaded to leave by the disciples of the State Master's Hall, leaving only a dozen people who refused to give up. Gu Jiao's carriage stopped opposite the State Master's Hall. She jumped off the carriage, took the token of the chess sage of the 6 kingdoms, and walked to the gate. A disciple of the State Master's Hall was persuading the people who refused to leave. The State Master has only seen 3 guests today, and he has already seen 2 of them. If you have a visiting card, please take it out quickly. If not, please go back. You can come back to the State Master's Hall in the future with a visiting card. Oh, a visiting card. Gu Jiao touched her chin. The disciple of the State Master's Hall had never seen Gu Jiao before, but he still asked politely, Young Master, do you have a visiting card? I don't have a visiting card, only this. Gu Jiao handed the token of the chess sage of the 6 kingdoms to the disciple of the State Master's Hall. The disciple of the State Master's Hall took a look and said in surprise, Young Master, please come in. Someone was unhappy. Hey, why can he enter? Yeah. He doesn't have a visiting card either. We have waited for so long. If anyone wants to enter, it should be us first. The disciple of the State Master's Hall explained, This young master is holding the token of the chess sage of the 6 kingdoms, Mr. Meng. Mr. Meng is an important guest of the State Master's Hall. The people he recommends can enter the State Master's Hall directly. Okay, today's 3 places are full. Everyone, please go back. Seriously. We have waited for so long for nothing. Exactly. We shouldn't have come. He looks so poor. Who knows if his token is fake or not? The disciple of the State Master's Hall shook his head helplessly, as if he was worried that Gu Jiao would thank him. He said, "Young master, don't take it to heart. They don't have a visiting card from the State Master's Hall, so they can't enter. It has nothing to do with you." Gu Jiao said, "Oh, I'm fine." The little brother was quite considerate. "Young master, please follow me." The disciple of the Imperial Preceptor Palace led Gu Jiao inside. The two of them had just turned around and walked inside when a carriage suddenly appeared behind them. The carriage had just stopped, and a white-robed young girl jumped down while lifting her skirt. It was obvious that she was a little anxious. "Please wait a moment," she called out to the disciples of the Imperial Preceptor Hall. Upon hearing the familiar voice, Gu Jiao and the other disciples of the Imperial Preceptor Hall turned their heads. "It's you." When the other party saw Gu Jiao, he was stunned. "Why are you here?" Gu Jiao looked at Mu Ru Xian, who had appeared in a hurry, and asked, "Why can't I be here?" Mu Ru Xian looked at the majestic and solemn plaque above her head. With a slight frown, she said, "This is the Imperial Advisor's Hall. You shouldn't be here." The disciple of the Imperial Preceptor Hall asked, "May I ask what's the matter, miss?" Mu Ru Xian's attitude toward the disciple of the Imperial Preceptor Palace was much better. She politely said, "I'm here to seek an audience with the Imperial Preceptor. I have a visiting card." After saying that, she took out a golden visiting card from her wide sleeve. The disciple of the Imperial Preceptor Palace immediately recognized that it was a genuine visiting card from the Imperial Preceptor Palace. However, he still tactfully declined. "My apologies, Mississippi. You're a little late. Our Imperial Preceptor will only see 3 guests today. This young master is the last one. He's just a citizen of a lower country. How can he have the qualifications to meet the Imperial Preceptor?" Mu Ru Xian raised the visiting card in her hand. Not only did she say this to the disciple of the Imperial Preceptor Palace, but she also said this to the other 2 disciples who were guarding the door. "Look carefully. This is a visiting card from the chess manor. The Imperial Preceptor personally gave it to the chess manor. It should be a visiting card of the highest grade. I don't care where this person got the visiting card from. He doesn't have the qualifications to be in front of me." Visiting cards were also divided into different grades. The first grade was the golden card, the second grade was the silver card, and the third grade was the blue card. Among them, only the golden card was personally stamped by the Imperial Preceptor. Those who had the qualifications to receive the golden card were usually members of the imperial family. The chess manor had luckily obtained one, and it had always been regarded as a treasure. Mu Ru Xian had spent a lot of effort to cure the coughing illness of the chess manor's heir in exchange for this golden card. Even if the heirs of the top 10 families came today, they couldn't surpass her. The disciple of the Imperial Preceptor Palace frowned slightly. "May I ask which country Miss is from?" Mu Ru Xian choked. The tone of the disciple of the Imperial Preceptor Palace became milder. "Miss is from the Chen Kingdom, right?" Mrs. accent is very thick from the Chen Kingdom's accent. On the other hand, I can't hear the accent of this young master from the other countries. The corner of Mu Ru Xian's mouth twitched. Are all the disciples of the Imperial Preceptor Palace so abnormal? Even their accent can be heard. Mu Ru Xian was publicly exposed as a citizen of a lower country. She felt humiliated and angry. She glared fiercely at Gu Jiao. "Why is it that nothing good ever happens when I meet someone from the Zhao Kingdom?" She still hadn't settled the debt of slapping her and dislocating her arm. Now, he was here to snatch her qualifications to meet the Imperial Preceptor. No matter what, she wouldn't let him have his way. "Ask him to take out the card to see. If he's a golden card like me." Before Mu Ru Xian could finish her sentence, the disciple of the Imperial Preceptor Palace showed the token that he didn't have time to return to Gu Jiao. He said in a neither servile nor overbearing manner, "This young master is holding old Mr. Meng's token. Old Mr. Meng is an honored guest of the Imperial Preceptor Palace. His token is far more qualified than the golden card in your hand." Mu Ru Xian's pupils shrank. Impossible. How can he have old Mr. Meng's token? This must be fake. Mu Ru Xian didn't come alone. There was another carriage parked behind her carriage. An elegant man walked down from the carriage. He looked to be in his early 40s. He had a thin figure and a goatee. With his hands behind his back, he walked over with an aloof expression. It's fortunate that I came today. Otherwise, I wouldn't have known that someone was using the chess manor's name to swindle others. Mu Ru Xian hurriedly turned around and greeted the other party. Her tone was gentle. Great Master Feng. The disciple of the Imperial Preceptor Palace frowned as he looked at the other party. Who are you? Mu Ru Xian smiled faintly. You keep saying that old Mr. Meng is an honored guest of your Imperial Preceptor Palace. Can't you recognize that this is old Mr. Meng's eldest disciple, Great Master Feng Yuhua? Old Mr. Meng was the chess saint. His eldest disciple was respectfully addressed as Great Master. The disciple of the Imperial Preceptor Palace cupped his hands. So it's Great Master Feng. It's an honor to meet you. Feng Yuhua glanced at Gu Jiao and said without any trace of politeness, I don't know this person. The token he's holding. It's true. When Feng Yuhua saw the token that was handed over, she was even more surprised than Mu Ru Xian. Mu Ru Xian asked, Great Master Feng, what's wrong? You. Feng Yuhua held the token in her hand and turned it over to confirm. It's Master's token. Why is Master's token in your hands? Where did you steal it? I didn't steal it. Gu Jiao said. Mu Ru Xian mocked. If you didn't steal it, where did this token come from? Everyone knows that old Mr. Meng has gone missing and his whereabouts are still unknown. How could his token appear in your hands so coincidentally? When the commoners who had left heard Mu Ru Xian's voice, they turned back and lined up to watch a good show. When Mu Ru Xian saw so many people, she wanted to make Gu Jiao lose face even more. Do you need me to remind everyone that you're a habitual offender? You once pretended to be a doctor and went to the in-country duke's residence to swindle people. Fortunately, I discovered it in time. Otherwise, the in-country duke would have been cured by you. The surrounding commoners began to whisper among themselves. He's so young. How can he be so shameless? He even deceived a good person like the in-country duke. How heartless can he be? He even stole the chess saint's token. The Imperial Preceptor Palace doesn't care. They actually want to bring this kind of person in to see the Imperial Preceptor. That's right. Mu Ru Xian smugly raised the corner of her lips. Xiao Lulang, admit it. You stole the token. Feng Yuhua also said coldly, I've never seen you before. The chess saint definitely wouldn't give you the token. You'd better tell the truth, otherwise. Otherwise what? An old voice that was neither salty nor light came from the back of the crowd. Feng Yuhua's body froze and she looked toward the other party. The crowd unconsciously opened up a path. Old Mr. Meng walked over with a gloomy expression. Mu Ru Xian and the other commoners had never seen old Mr. Meng before. From his clothes and appearance, he looked like an ordinary old man. Mu Ru Xian said arrogantly, Where are you from? I advise you not to meddle in other people's business. The person beside me is the chess saint's eldest disciple, the current owner of the chess manor. Old Mr. Meng stood beside Gu Jiao and looked at Feng Yuhua mockingly. Owner. Feng Yuhua's face paled. Shut up. Mu Ru Xian was shocked. Great Master Feng was scolding her? She cured his stubborn cough that had plagued him for many years. He treated her as a guest and even personally sent her to the Imperial Preceptor's hall today. Why did he suddenly? Feng Yuhua broke out in cold sweat. He wiped it with his sleeve and cupped his hands toward old Mr. Meng. He stuttered and couldn't say anything. He was so arrogant just now, but now he was so hesitant. Old Mr. Meng said sternly, Kneel. Feng Yuhua fell to his knees. Digression, looking at the monthly votes in the bookstore, I'm 5 votes away from reaching 1,000. Let's reach 1,000. I'll go write the 3rd chapter. The latest chapter of this book isn't finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_8264286/1072657170. HTML Genius memorized this website's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com BQ mobile reading website, m. zhbqg.com. Chapter 697. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found online are available here. Everyone was dumbfounded by this scene. Master Feng of the chess manor actually knelt down to an old man? Gu Jiao tilted her head to look at Elder Meng. Mu Ru Xian's expression changed greatly. She gradually felt that something was wrong. Master Feng was the #1 person in the chess manor after Elder Meng. To be able to make him kneel, could it be? Teacher. Master Feng knelt down with a trembling voice. The word teacher was like a hammer that smashed all the confidence and arrogance that Mu Ru Xian had built up because of Master Feng. She looked at Master Feng, who was kneeling on the ground and didn't even dare to raise his head. Her heart received a huge blow. So this was the power of the chess saint of the 6 countries? The dignified son of the Feng family actually knelt before a person from a lower country. He was so respectful, sincere, and humble that he didn't dare to show the slightest disrespect. That was the Feng family, the 9th-ranked family. Elder Meng was originally from the Zhao kingdom. He was granted amnesty by the king and settled in Shang due to become a citizen of Shang kingdom. Mu Ru Xian felt a burning flame rising from the bottom of her heart. It burned her heart and lungs, making her feel both painful and excited. Once she became a citizen of Shang kingdom, she wouldn't have to look at anyone's face anymore. Elder Meng's aura was fully released as he looked coldly at his unfilial disciple on the ground. He said sarcastically, "I didn't even know when you became the master of the chess manor." Feng Yuhua's body trembled as she hurriedly explained, "Teacher, that's just nonsense. The chess manor belongs to teacher. The plaque bestowed by His Majesty the King still hangs in the main hall. The first chess manor is bestowed to Elder Meng. How could this student dare to claim to be the master of the chess manor?" He really resented Mu Ru Xian to death now. Some words should be said in one's heart. How could she say it out loud? Wouldn't that be making people talk? Elder Meng continued to question, "Who did you say stole the token?" Student. No matter how stupid Feng Yuhua was, she could tell that the kid's token was personally given by the chess saint. She did not understand. She had coveted that token for so many years and had not even allowed the chess saint to take a look at it. How could he be so generous as to give it to someone else? Old Mr. Meng thought to himself, "Even I can't bear to bully a child. Do you think it's your turn to slander him?" Old Mr. Meng snatched the token from Feng Yuehua's hand and wiped it carefully with his sleeve before handing it to Gu Jiao. "Dal, take it." Gu Jiao, oh. Feng Yuehua didn't feel good at all. "If you want to take the token back, just take it back. Why do you still have to wipe it?" Old Mr. Meng said to Feng Yuehua, "You, apologize to your junior sister." Cough, junior brother. Feng Yu was shocked. Gu Jiao looked at Mr. Meng in confusion. "When did I become your disciple?" Mr. Meng coughed softly and coaxed in a low voice, "Give me some face, give me some face." Gu Jiao. Feng Yuehua did not expect that after the chess saint went out for a trip, he would come back with a junior. Where could he go to reason with her? Mr. Meng nodded and said, "Well, You don't even listen to me anymore. It seems that I can't order you around anymore. This won't do. This old man chased away 58 disciples before. He was the only one who persisted. He had endured for more than 10 years and was about to succeed. It was not worth it to be chased out of the sect at this critical juncture. He stood up and cupped his hands toward Gu Jiao. Junior brother, I was wrong. I apologize to you. Gu Jiao, who suddenly had a senior brother, was speechless. All right, you can go in first. Didn't you have something urgent to look for the state preceptor? Mr. Meng would definitely not give Gu Jiao a chance to regret. Was it easy to take in a disciple? He had waited so long for this opportunity. The timing was right. I don't care if you admit it or not. I will admit you anyway. Gu Jiao frowned. She felt that the old man was scheming against her. But she really didn't have time to waste here. She went in with the state preceptor's disciples. Mu Ruxan looked at Gu Jiao's departing figure and couldn't help but clench her fists. She couldn't accept it. She really couldn't accept it. Why was this brat's luck so good when they were both from a lower country? First, he got acquainted with Mr. Qing Chen. Then, he got acquainted with the Su family's third young mistress. Now, even the chess sage of the 6 countries wanted to take him in as a disciple. He was obviously a good-for-nothing fellow. Mr. Meng, can I ask you? No. Mr. Meng rudely interrupted Mu Ruxan. He wasn't deaf. He had heard every single word that this Chen citizen had said to slander Gu Jiao. He coldly said, You aren't a member of the chess manor. I don't have the right to discipline you. On the surface, he was saying that he didn't have the right. But in reality, he was completely cutting ties with Mu Ruxan. No matter what kind of relationship Mu Ruxan had with his eldest disciple, it didn't matter to him. She shouldn't try to cheat him. Mr. Meng pointed at Mu Ruxan and called over the 2 state preceptor's disciples on duty. He sternly said, Your state preceptor once promised me 3 things. He said that I could make any 3 requests of your state preceptor's hall. Now, my first request is that this Chan citizen is never allowed to step into the state preceptor's hall. Mu Ruxan's face paled. Not being able to enter the state preceptor's hall wasn't scary. What was scary was that once this news spread, the whole of Shang would know that she had offended the state preceptor's hall. What was the state preceptor's hall? It was an existence that even the 10 great families didn't dare to provoke. If she was hated by the state preceptor's hall, would she still have the chance to become a citizen of Shang? Mu Ruxan gritted her teeth and said, Mr. Meng, I cured your eldest disciple. You can't bite the hand that feeds you. As soon as she said that, she saw Feng Yuhua clutching her throat in an extremely exaggerated manner. She fell to the ground and coughed violently. Her eyes rolled back and she kept twitching. Mu Ruxan. Gu Jiao didn't know that Mr. Meng had stayed behind to teach Mu Ruxan a lesson for her. She was brought to the state preceptor's courtyard by the state preceptor's disciple. Gu Jiao asked, So everyone in the state preceptor's hall knows Mr. Meng? The disciple smiled. That's right, except for a few new disciples. I'm a distinguished guest of the state preceptor's hall. I'm the state preceptor's most sincere friend, the great chess saint of the 6 countries, Mr. Meng. Thinking about the embarrassing lines she had written for the old man, Gu Jiao silently clenched her fists. It's fine. If she wasn't embarrassed, the others would be. The state preceptor's residence was in a bamboo forest. They had to walk across a small arch bridge. The scenery was pleasant and the path was deep and serene. The overall style of this place was somewhat different from the state preceptor's hall. It had a profound feeling. The state preceptor lives over there. The disciple pointed at the purple bamboo forest not far away. So it's the purple bamboo forest. Gu Jiao subconsciously thought it was the green bamboo forest. That's right, what's your name? My name is Yu He. The disciple said. As they talked, the 2 entered the purple bamboo forest. A cool breeze blew in the forest. The fragrance of the purple bamboo was refreshing. Thinking about Gu Yan's surgery soon, Gu Jiao's mood improved. "We're here." The disciple said, "We'll wait here for the people inside to come out." The two stood outside a wooden fence. Inside the wooden fence was a large bare courtyard. Further inside, there were 3 small bamboo houses. The door of the middle bamboo house was open, but the bamboo curtain was lowered, so it was difficult to see inside. Gu Jiao had no intention of eavesdropping on the conversation between the state preceptor and the guest. However, her hearing was too good. She still heard someone say, "Is this really the only way?" It was the voice of a young man. Gu Jiao didn't hear the state preceptor's reply. Instead, she heard the young man say, "I understand. No matter what, thank you for meeting me." In a moment, the bamboo curtain was lifted by a delicate hand with distinct joints. A young Taoist priest wearing a dark blue Taoist robe stepped out. He put on his shoes on the steps and walked out of the courtyard with a cold expression. Gu Jiao stared at him. She thought that this Taoist priest was too good-looking. Nowadays, not only were monks good-looking, even Taoists were so handsome. Taoist priest Qing Feng. He cupped his hands and greeted the other party. Taoist priest Qing Feng slightly returned the greeting. Gu Jiao blinked. He was even more handsome up close. The handsome monk didn't look like a monk. This Taoist priest did have a sage-like aura. Taoist priest Qing Feng also greeted Gu Jiao. Then, without waiting for Gu Jiao to return the greeting, he turned and left. He introduced him to Gu Jiao. He's Taoist priest Qing Feng. Before he became a monk, he was a student of Jianan Academy. Jianan Academy was founded by the state preceptor. "He is the last guest here?" A deep and mellow voice came from the bamboo house. In this vast world, it made people's hearts tremble. It was as if their souls had been knocked. He bowed to the bamboo house. "Yes, state preceptor. He's old Master Meng's little disciple." "Oh." The person in the house was surprised. "Come in," he said. He brought Gu Jiao into the courtyard. He couldn't go in, so he could only watch as she walked up the steps. She took off her shoes and walked through the curtain in her white footwear. In the dim room, there was only a small table, 2 cushions, and an incense burner. The small table was facing the door. The person behind the table was wearing a black robe with a golden qilin embroidered on the cuffs. He wore a black hat, and his face was hidden in the dark. His back was straight, and his body was like pine and bamboo. At his level, he no longer had to emit any sort of aura. Everything was contained within, returning to one's original state, returning to one's original state. Was this the state preceptor of the Yen dynasty, who was worshipped as a god? Gu Jiao sat down opposite him. The light changed, and Gu Jiao finally saw his face. Gu Jiao was stunned. Digression. Thank you for your monthly votes. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found on the internet can be found here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642/82642826724. HTML Genius memorized this site's address. www.zhbqg.com Biku Gu mobile reading website, zhbqg.com. Chapter 698. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found on the internet are all available here. This was a face that Gu Jiao would recognize even if it turned into ashes. It was an outline that couldn't be changed no matter if it was young, old, healthy, or sick. Gu Jiao was about to say, strange but unchanged, but it was stuck in her throat. She looked at him in a daze. After a while, she asked, "Godfather?" The state preceptor raised his eyes from the light and looked at Gu Jiao with slight confusion. Gu Jiao's straight shoulders drooped slightly. Her eyes were different, but it was really too similar. If one day Godfather was old, he would look like this. The state preceptor asked calmly, "What is your surname and what do you want?" Godfather wouldn't call him young master, nor would he use such a calm tone. So it was really just a person who looked exactly the same. Gu Jiao's eyes fell on the state preceptor's teacup. His teacup was placed on her left-hand side, as were the inkstone and pen holder. He was left-handed. What a coincidence. So was Godfather. She was brought back to the organization by Godfather when she was 8 years old. All her skills were taught by Godfather. Although Godfather was very strict and seemed unreasonable, if it wasn't for Godfather, she would have killed herself when she lost control for the first time when she was 8 years old. Gu Jiao collected her thoughts and looked at the elder in front of her. She was not in a hurry to speak. Instead, she looked at the state preceptor and asked if she could borrow his pen and paper. The state preceptor raised his hand and asked Gu Jiao to do as she pleased. Gu Jiao picked up the pen and paper on the table and wrote an advanced mathematics question from her previous life. She turned the paper around and pushed it in front of the state preceptor. The state preceptor created the 6 books of the Yen Kingdom. One of them was in the hands of Xiao Heng. It recorded the mathematics knowledge from her previous life and was translated into the native language of the Yen Kingdom. That evidence was not enough. Gu Jiao wanted to personally confirm that she wrote simplified Chinese characters. If the state preceptor was really a transmigrated senior, he would have recognized him. When the imperial tutor saw the question, his expression changed. Gu Jiao felt that his body seemed to tremble. Gu Jiao's eyes lit up. "Did you see something?" The imperial preceptor sighed and said truthfully, "I haven't seen such ugly calligraphy for many years. It really stings my eyes." Gu Jiao. Because the words were too ugly, the state preceptor had to spend a lot of effort to barely recognize that it was a question. He stared at the question, picked up the pen, and wrote down the process of solving the question and the answer. She used the same simplified Chinese characters as Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao took it and looked at it. She pursed her lips and said, "Your writing isn't good either. How dare you criticize me? I haven't written for decades. So you're really, me too." Smart people did not need to beat around the bush. They also did not need to be secretive or afraid. Gu Jiao knew very well what she was here for. Her identity as a transmigrator would be exposed sooner or later, unless the state preceptor was not from her time and space. But if he was not, then he would not be able to create the operating room that Gu Yen needed. So Gu Jiao would rather he was than expose herself. The state preceptor looked at Gu Jiao in shock. His pupils shone. "I really didn't expect this. It's been so many years. It's been so many years." Gu Jiao understood how the state preceptor felt. From what she knew, the state preceptor came to the Yen Kingdom 30 years ago. He had been wandering in a different world for 30 years. Finally, he met someone from the same time and space as himself. He must be very excited. Gu Jiao did not look that excited because she did not have the same strong emotions as normal people. But if she had to describe her feelings, it would be that she was a little happy. She did not need her own kind. So strictly speaking, most of her happiness came from the hope of curing Gu Yen. At the state preceptor's age, he had experienced too many ups and downs and had seen through life and death. He quickly accepted the fact in front of him. He asked, Can you tell me about your situation?" Gu Jiao thought for a while and said concisely, "I'm from the 22nd century. Now I'm from the Zhao Kingdom." The state preceptor said thoughtfully, "A century later than me. How did you come here?" Gu Jiao said thoughtfully, "The plane crashed." "Where is the state preceptor?" The state preceptor said with a trace of reminiscence, "I was looking for someone. Then I came here." It sounded very specific, but it was a little empty. He still did not explain the reason why he left that time and space. But it did not matter. Gu Jiao did not come here to inquire about the state preceptor's privacy and past. Then how did you find out my identity? The state preceptor asked. Gu Jiao could not say that the stolen letter of credence of the Yen kingdom was in their hands. It sounded a little exciting. Although they were from the same hometown, she could not expose too much. Gu Jiao said, I heard some of your deeds and felt that you might be like me. But I was not sure, so I tested you first. The state preceptor nodded. I see. The tea on the stove was boiling. A disciple came from the backyard and sat down. He made tea for Gu Jiao and then left silently. Then you came to me today. The state preceptor looked at Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao said, to be honest, I have a friend who has a very serious heart disease and needs an immediate operation. I want to borrow the operating room of the state preceptor palace. Last time Yi Qing received the person who came to the state preceptor palace to inquire about the operating room was you? You were brought here by Senior Meng? Yi Qing was the eldest disciple of the state preceptor palace. When Gu Jiao came to the state preceptor palace for the first time, the state preceptor was not there. It was Yi Qing who received her. Gu Jiao nodded. That's me. The state preceptor looked at Gu Jiao meaningfully. Senior Meng said that he met a little girl who was good at chess in the Zhao kingdom. Gu Jiao. So she still fell for him? The state preceptor smiled with tolerance. It doesn't matter. I won't tell anyone whether you are a boy or a girl. After saying that, he stood up and looked at Gu Jiao. Next time, stick your Adam's apple straight. It's crooked. Gu Jiao touched her fake Adam's apple. Oh. The state preceptor said, come with me. Gu Jiao followed the state preceptor out of the bamboo house. He had already left. Only a disciple who had served Gu Jiao tea just now followed them silently. The state preceptor looked at the disciple behind him and then looked at the basket on Gu Jiao's back, and asked, is the basket heavy? Gu Jiao shook her head. No, I can carry it myself. The state preceptor did not insist. The two walked out of the bamboo forest and went all the way to the library of the state preceptor palace. You used to study medicine? The state preceptor asked. Kind of. Gu Jiao said, I was a surgeon and learned a little Chinese medicine. Where is the state preceptor? Are you also a medical student? The state preceptor shook his head. No. Gu Jiao was stunned. Then the operating room. The state preceptor pointed to the front. You will know when you get there. Gu Jiao had a strange feeling in her heart, as if there would be a change. The two of them passed by the library and came to a magnificent side hall. White marble was used as the floor tiles, and Phoebe Jinnan wood was used as the roof beams. The richly ornamented beams and painted rafters were luxurious and expensive. It was a completely different world from the shabby bamboo hut. It was hard to believe that the state preceptor, who had such a luxurious place, was willing to stay in such a shabby room. The disciples who were busy in the hall bowed to the state preceptor when they saw him. The state preceptor took Gu Jiao to the corridor on the right, and they went all the way to the end. There was a room with a locked iron door, which was guarded by two men of sacrifice. Gu Jiao could feel that the two men of sacrifice were as powerful as Sirius. Sirius was the first real master that Gu Jiao met after she came to this strange world, so he became her benchmark to judge the men of sacrifice. Open it. The state preceptor said. One of the men of sacrifice took out a key and opened the bronze lock on the iron door. The other man of sacrifice pushed the heavy iron door open. It was not difficult to feel the weight of the iron door just by listening to the dull sound. The state preceptor entered the room first, and then he turned to Gu Jiao and said, Come in. Gu Jiao stepped over the threshold. What she saw was an ordinary room that could not be more ordinary. It was empty, and there was nothing. Gu Jiao opened her mouth and said, This is... The state preceptor signaled the men of sacrifice outside to close the iron door. After the iron door was closed, the room instantly became dark. He said to Gu Jiao, The operation room. Gu Jiao opened her eyes wide and said, But there is not even a stool here. The state preceptor came to the wall facing the iron door, raised his hand and gently closed it. He looked over Gu Jiao's shoulder and said, "Take out the things in your basket and put them in." Gu Jiao subconsciously put her hand on her small basket. The state preceptor said casually, "Don't worry, I won't take your things. Besides, I have no use for them, right?" Gu Jiao was even more shocked. This guy was so powerful. He seemed to be able to see through everything. He even knew that only she could open the small medicine box. The state preceptor looked at Gu Jiao and did not force her. He just smiled and asked, "Are you sure you don't want to bring it over? The operation room is in another dimension. Without that thing, none of us can enter." The small medicine box could bring her here, and it did have the ability to tear through space and time. Moreover, it was connected to the research institute in her previous life, and it could provide her with the medicine she needed. But these were her secrets. How did he know? As if he sensed the doubts in Gu Jiao's heart, the state preceptor patiently waited for Gu Jiao to make her choice. However, he did not intend to explain to Gu Jiao. Well, everyone had their own secrets. It was his ability to see through them, but it was his freedom to not explain. Gu Jiao walked over and put down the small basket. She took out the small medicine box covered with a cotton cloth and put it in the wall. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_89642462557. HTML Genius memorized this website's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Bikuj mobile reading website. zhbqg.com. Chapter 699. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel is more complete and updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. There are all kinds of novels that can't be found on the internet here. It was drizzling in Chengdu at 9 o'clock in the morning. Mr. Meng took his rebellious disciple to a pavilion in the State Master's palace to take shelter from the rain. It was near the gate. If Gu Jiao came out, she would see them at a glance. The disciples of the State Master's palace served tea and snacks. Mr. Meng sat down quietly and tasted the tea. Feng Yuehua didn't have the honor. He had just gotten into big trouble. Now he was standing beside Mr. Meng like a big quail that had done something wrong. Gu Jiao was the only one who didn't treat the old master as the chess sage. The rest of the people, especially the whole chess shop, had all offended the old master. The old master was bad-tempered, irritable, picky, and unreasonable. He often kicked his disciples out. Feng Yuehua was not the first disciple of Mr. Meng, but she was the only one who stayed. That was why she became the first disciple. The reason why Mr. Meng was so confident was that he was a distinguished guest of the State Master's palace. Secondly, he was appreciated by the monarch. Thirdly, he was indifferent to fame and fortune. He didn't care about worldly possessions, nor was he afraid of death. He earned money as he lived. It didn't matter if he didn't live. He had no weakness and no ambition. Naturally, he had nothing to fear. Mr. Meng had just finished a cup of tea. Feng Yuehua quickly filled it for him. She smiled embarrassedly and said, "Teacher, where have you been these days? I looked for you everywhere, but I didn't hear anything about you. Your coachman also went back to the countryside. I couldn't find him." Mr. Meng gave the coachman a leave. He didn't want those guys from the chess shop to disturb him after they found out where he lived. Mr. Meng snorted. He didn't want to talk to this rebellious disciple at the moment. What was wrong with her? How could she mix with such a scheming person? Don't say that he was old and shouldn't argue with a little girl. Was this a matter of arguing or not? She bullied his disciple. He was merciful that he didn't beat her up. Yes, from today on, the girl was his disciple. He didn't allow her to refuse. Feng Yuehua asked embarrassedly, "Teacher, what's wrong with junior brother? Where did you meet little junior brother? Have you been by junior brother's side all this time?" Muru thought to herself, "He's from a lower country. Which country is he from? Is he from the state of Zhao?" Old Mr. Meng came from the state of Zhao, so Feng Yuehua naturally thought that if he accepted a disciple, he would try his best to take care of the people of Zhao. Old Master Meng snorted coldly. "You have the time to ask about this, but you don't have the time to wipe your eyes?" Feng Yuehua said in a low voice, "Teacher, I know my mistake. I shouldn't have given our Go Club's invitation to Mu Ru Xen." Old Master Meng looked as if he couldn't wait to hack him to death. Feng Yuehua's neck shrank. "I shouldn't have personally sent her to the Imperial Advisor Hall." Old Master Meng still wished he could chop him to death. Feng Yuehua broke out in a cold sweat. Where exactly was she not right? Why don't you say something? Feng Yuehua wiped her cold sweat and said, I shouldn't have had any relationship with her." Old Mr. Meng continued to drink his tea. Feng Yuehua heaved a sigh of relief. "Damn, I finally got it right." Feng Yuehua looked inside the Imperial Advisor Hall and asked curiously, "Why is junior brother looking for the Imperial Advisor? Why hasn't he come out yet?" Speak of the devil. Gu Jiao, accompanied by Yu He, came from the other side of the road. Old Master Meng got up and walked out of the pavilion. Feng Yuehua hurriedly followed and reached out to help him down the steps. "Teacher, please slow down." The four met on the main road of the Imperial Advisor Hall. Yu He cupped his hands and bowed. "Old Master Meng." Old Master Meng nodded slightly and looked at Gu Jiao beside Yu He. "How is it?" Gu Jiao said, "It's going well." Old Master Meng's eyebrows moved, and his eyes were hale and hearty. "How long can you?" Gu Jiao said. "As long as a Yan's physical condition permits, we can do it at any time." Feng Yuehua was confused. What kind of riddles are teacher and junior brother playing? Why can't I understand a word? Old Master Meng stroked his beard. "Good, very good. It's a worthwhile trip. Let's go back." "Teacher, are you going back to the chess club or, ouch?" Feng Yuehua was halfway through her sentence when she felt a sharp pain on the back of her right foot. She bit her finger in pain. Old Master Meng pulled his foot back as if nothing had happened. He waved his old arms and ran forward in small steps without caring about his image. "Oh, I promised Yen, that I would play chess with him today. Go back quickly. Go back quickly." Feng Yuehua was speechless. Gu Jiao was speechless. Old Master Meng acted like an old man and quickly came to the alley on the right side of the Imperial Advisor Hall. The carriage was parked there. But when Old Master Meng got there, he found a serious problem. The Horse King was missing. The Horse King's reins were originally tied to a post, but now the rope was gone. Old Master Meng was stunned as if he had been struck by lightning. This is the territory of the Imperial Advisor Hall. Who has the guts to steal the horse tied here? Did anyone see it? A disciple nearby heard Old Master Meng's voice and came over. "No, we didn't see it. If there were any suspicious people, they would have been noticed by the patrolling men of sacrifice." So there was only one possibility. The Horse King had run away by itself. The Horse King liked to run around when it came out to pull the carriage. But no matter where it went, it would pull the carriage back as long as it had enough fun. So Gu Jiao usually let it be as long as she was not in a hurry. But if the carriage was parked somewhere, Gu Jiao would not allow it to run around. It had to look after the carriage. Gu Jiao touched her chin in confusion. What did it see? Old Master Meng thought of the Horse King's unruly behavior and his face suddenly changed. Could it be that the stupid horse was kidnapped? On a quiet and empty street, the Horse King grinned and chased after a person and a horse in front of it. It was originally bored in the alley and was about to fall asleep. Suddenly, a black shadow flashed in front of its eyes, and its mane was blown up. The Horse King had never seen such a fast horse. It was so excited that it was not sleepy at all. It shook off the shaft of the carriage, bit off the reins, and chased after the person. Although the Horse King was only 2.5 years old, it was faster than most adult horses. It chased forward with all its might but could not catch up easily. It did not give up and chased for several streets. The tall and valiant horse stopped in front of a mansion. The guard came forward and saluted. "Prince." Prince Han pulled the reins and said in a deep voice, "Open the door." The guard opened the door of the Han mansion. Prince Han rode in and then closed the door with a bang. The Horse King wandered for a while not far away. It was a smart horse. Since it could not enter the gate, it circled around the mansion and found a grassland surrounded by a fence. At the end of the grassland, it could see a row of stables. The Horse King retreated dozens of steps, adjusted its speed, and ran all the way. Then, it jumped over the fence in one go. It flashed past the sharp corner of the fence. The Horse King's mane bristled. It almost became a horse. After the Horse King landed on the ground, it rushed to the stables without stopping. Prince Han had just handed the horse to the Han family's horse trainer, Chu Nan. Chu Nan patted the horse's neck and said in amazement, "It's 17 years old, but it's still so strong." Generally speaking, a 17-year-old horse was around 50 years old. Its energy and condition had already begun to decline, but this horse seemed to still be in peak condition. Prince Han said proudly, "It's the Black Wind King." Chu Nan smiled. "You're right. Only the Black Wind King can do this in this world." Prince Han touched its mane and asked, "Can it still go to the battlefield?" Chu Nan smiled. "No problem." Prince Han nodded. "Take good care of it. Let it fight for a few more years." Chu Nan replied, "I know." After Prince Han left, Chu Nan brought the Black Wind King to its own big stables. It could not be kept with the other Black Wind Riders, or it would scare the horses. Chu Nan gave it some fine feed and sprinkled some salt. The Black Wind King used up a lot of energy. It was not enough to eat only grass or coarse feed. Fine feed and salt were indispensable. "Chu Nan, this horse seems to be injured. Come and take a look." "Coming." Chu Nan did not have time to take away the feed bucket. He poured water into the water tank and went to the other stables. The Horse King came after Chu Nan left. It originally came to fight with the Black Wind King, but the feed looked delicious. It squeezed to the side of the Black Wind King and began to fight for the food. It was the first time the horse met the Black Wind King who fought for food. The Black Wind King was angry. Its powerful aura overflowed. It raised its front hooves and smacked the Horse King with its big mouth. The Horse King was not to be trifled with. It stood up straight and raised its hooves to fight back. Then, it was beaten very badly. The 2.5-year-old baby Horse King was no match for the old Black Wind King. The Horse King could not win. It stood up like a carp and went to the Black Wind King. It rubbed its head against the horse and tried to please it. After all, it was not an adult horse. The Black Wind King was not wary of the Horse King. Plus, the Horse King was acting obedient. After being rubbed for a while, the Black Wind King did not beat it when it went to eat again. But just because it did not beat the Horse King did not mean that the Horse King would not beat it. The Horse King was the first to finish its meal. While the Black Wind King was busy eating, the Horse King kicked him. After kicking the Black Wind King, the Horse King ran away. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster and more complete. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that cannot be found online are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_89642855562. HTML Genius memorized this website's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Bikuj mobile reading website. zhbqg.com Chapter 700. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster and more frequently. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels that can't be found online are all available here. The Black Wind King had never been so humiliated before. It flew into a rage and chased after the Horse King with a murderous aura. The Horse King couldn't outrun the Black Wind King with its current strength, but it was running with all its might. Its potential was greatly stimulated, and the Black Wind King couldn't catch up to it. The more the Black Wind King chased, the angrier it got. It wanted to trample the Horse King to death. The Horse King didn't run to crowded places. It probably understood that it couldn't really cause trouble for Gu Jiao, so it tried to run to empty alleys with few people. As the two horses ran through an empty old street, a blue-clothed man in a carriage in the same direction lifted the curtain and suddenly said in surprise, "Big brother, look at what that is." The man in brown looked forward. "That's the Black Wind Rider of the Han family?" The man in blue said, "That's the Black Wind King, brother." The man in brown was surprised. Why would the Black Wind King run to the street like this? The Black Wind King was the Crown Prince's mount, the most valuable horse in Shangdu. Who didn't know that the Crown Prince treasured it? Why would he let it run out alone? The man in blue said, "Although I don't know why, brother, haven't you always wanted a horse like the Black Wind King? Since the Crown Prince isn't here, why don't we?" The man in brown frowned. "Stealing Han Ye's horse? Are you crazy?" The man in blue's eyes flashed with a hint of calculation. He smiled and said to his brother, "Brother, there's no one on this street. If we don't say anything, who will know that we stole his horse? He didn't tie up his horse and let it run out into the street. Even if we don't catch it, can you guarantee that others won't? Instead of letting others take advantage of it, we might as well take it." The brown-clothed young man looked ahead and asked, "Were there two horses just now?" The two horses ran in a straight line. The Horse King was blocked by the tall and strong Black Wind King. The man in blue smiled. "Yes, brother." The brown-robed man pondered. "A horse that even the Black Wind King couldn't catch up to. It must be a good horse." The blue-clothed man closed the fan in his hand and said, "Then I'll take both horses." The two of them got out of the carriage and used their qing gong to leap onto the roof and vault over the wall. They took a shortcut and circled above the two horses. The two of them exchanged glances. "Big brother, here." The blue-clothed man tossed a bottle of medicinal powder to the brown-clothed young man. Holding his breath, he took out a handkerchief and poured the powder on it. Then, he jumped down and rode on the back of the Black Wind King. The brown-clothed youth said, "I'll leave the other horse to you. Big brother, don't worry. I'm coming." The blue-robed man did the same thing. He also got a handkerchief with medicinal powder on it, and swept it down from the sky. Their handkerchiefs were covered in knockout powder. It was impossible to take down a wild horse like the Black Wind King without using some tricks. As for the other horse, it should be the Black Wind Horse of the Han clan. Although it was not as powerful as the Black Wind King, it was better to be prepared. The two of them rode on their horses and used handkerchiefs to cover the mouths of their horses so that they could inhale the powder as quickly as possible. Even if the horses struggled, they would still be drugged. The effect of the powder was extremely strong. The powder from a fingernail was enough to knock out a cow. However, the two of them did not expect the two horses to be much more ferocious than they imagined. They did not even manage to sit properly before they were thrown off by the Black Wind King and the Horse King. The two of them almost died from the fall. After stabilizing himself, the blue-clothed man took out a porcelain bottle. The brown-clothed youth grabbed his wrist and asked, "What are you doing?" The blue-clothed man said, "Big brother, since the knockout powder won't work, we can only use gunpowder." The brown-clothed youth said coldly, "You're using gunpowder here. Are you worried that others won't be able to trace it back to us?" The blue-clothed man said, "But..." The brown-clothed youth looked deeply at the Black Wind King in front of him and said, "Follow them. Let's go to another place." The blue-clothed man smiled. "Big brother is smart." The two of them chased the Horse King and the Black Wind King all the way. As they chased, they felt that something was wrong. Big brother. They've run into the hunting ground. The hunting ground was surrounded by fences, but the two horses were not easy to deal with. They actually managed to climb over such high fences. What should we do, big brother? The blue-clothed man asked anxiously. The brown-clothed youth frowned and said regretfully, "What can we do? That's the royal hunting ground. Trespassers will be sentenced to death." The blue-clothed man said dispiritedly, "The duck that was in our hands flew away just like that." The Horse King did not know that it had broken into the royal hunting ground. It was the Wild Horse King, and the wilderness was its home ground. Therefore, it ran into the forest as soon as it saw it. After entering the forest, it really had the advantage of surviving in the wilderness. No matter how complicated the terrain was, it was not a problem for it. After instinctively sensing that the black mud in front of it was not right, it jumped high and landed in a safe place with great precision. The Black Wind King was invincible on the battlefield, but it was not as sensitive to the dangers in the forest as the Wild Horse King. It accidentally fell into a quagmire full of swamps. It could not run any more, and the horse's hooves could no longer exert any strength. In the swamp, the greater the strength, the more the horse struggled, the faster it sank. In the blink of an eye, the swamp was over its knees. The Horse King ran behind the Black Wind King and looked back curiously. It saw that the Black Wind King had sunk into the swamp. It had an instinctive fear in that kind of place. It knew that it could not get close. It hesitated for a moment, then continued to run forward happily, ignoring the Black Wind King. But after running for a while, it stopped. It looked back at the Black Wind King, who was sinking deeper and deeper into the swamp. The Black Wind King's eyes were filled with grief and despair. The Black Wind King was not afraid of death, but the Black Wind King's destiny was to die on the battlefield, not to be drowned in a pool of mud. The Horse King was so conflicted that it turned around and bit its own tail. In the end, it carefully walked over. It overcame its instinctive fear of the swamp and slowly came to a place 3 feet away from the Black Wind King. That was the limit it could go. An inch forward was the swamp. It shouted at the Black Wind King. The Black Wind King did not move. It slowly collapsed and was swallowed by the swamp. The Horse King sniffed it and stretched out its head to reach it, but it could not reach it. It was always natural selection. It was never easy for wild horses to survive. Their natural enemies were not only the beasts but also the dangers of the jungle. The Horse King had to give up, go around it, and leave this place. Gu Jiao and old Master Meng waited in the carriage, while Gu Jiao sat outside. About an hour later, the Horse King ran all the way back. Gu Jiao raised her eyebrows. "Oh, it's back." Old Master Meng lifted the curtain and took a look. He let out a long sigh of relief. "It's really back. I was scared to death." The Horse King came to the front of the carriage, but it did not obediently put on the saddle as usual. Instead, it bit Gu Jiao's clothes and pulled her out. After Gu Jiao got out of the carriage, the Horse King stood in front of Gu Jiao, indicating that it wanted to carry Gu Jiao. "Are you taking me somewhere?" Gu Jiao asked. The Horse King turned around. It meant that it was going to go, but it was impossible for Gu Jiao to ride it. Gu Jiao went to the gate of the State Master's palace. "Can you lend me a horse?" Gu Jiao borrowed a horse from the State Master's palace and followed the Horse King to the royal hunting ground. Gu Jiao did not know that it was the royal hunting ground. After the Horse King crossed it, the fence was too high for the horses of the State Master's palace to cross. Gu Jiao had to tie the horse outside the fence and climbed over it with her bare hands. The swamp was not far away. Gu Jiao saw the big black horse sinking into the swamp after a few steps. The Black Wind King knew that struggling would only make it sink faster, so it gave up. Even so, it was almost swallowed up by the swamp. Only its long neck and saddle were still exposed. The huge pressure made it difficult for Black Wind King to breathe. The Horse King shouted at Black Wind King. Gu Jiao did not understand horse language, so she did not know what it was shouting. Gu Jiao took out a bundle of rope from her small basket, tied a knot at one end, and tied it around the Horse King's body. Then, she quickly cut off 2 long branches and placed them on the swamp. After making sure that both ends of the branches were pressed against the solid ground, she stepped on the branches and walked over. This was very dangerous. As long as the Black Wind King attacked her, she would lose her balance. Once she lost her balance, she would fall into the swamp. Fortunately, Black Wind King did not attack her. She came to Black Wind King's side, put the rope under the saddle and tied a tight knot. Then she said to the Horse King, "Pull." It was very difficult for a 2.5-year-old Horse King to pull an adult Black Wind King that was almost completely submerged in the swamp. The Horse King's hooves slipped and it fell on the ground several times. Every time it fell, it stood up again. It bore the weight that it should not bear at its age. Finally, it pulled Black Wind King out of the swamp when it was exhausted. It fell to the ground and panted. Black Wind King also fell to the ground. It inhaled the poisonous gas in the swamp and showed symptoms of poisoning. In addition, there were some sharp things in the swamp that scratched its belly while it was struggling. Gu Jiao observed the horse. It also looked like a Horse King, but it had a saddle and horseshoes on its feet, so it did not look like a wild Horse King. Gu Jiao opened the small medicine box and began to clean its wounds. Digression. It's the 3rd chapter of the novel. Are you surprised? Are you surprised? The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found on the internet are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_896428262/1072424232. HTML Genius memorized this website's address. www.zhbqg.com Biku Gu mobile reading website. zhbqg.com. Chapter 701. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster and more frequently. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are all available here. After Han Shitzi came out of the stable, he went straight to his courtyard. Han Che had been waiting in his room for a long time. "Big brother." Han Che saw him and went forward to greet him. Han Shitzi glanced at him. "You've recovered?" "I've recovered long ago," he said. "Even Big Brother has recovered. Why can't I recover?" It would be fine if he didn't mention this. Now that he mentioned it, Han Shitzi's heart was filled with anger. Who would have thought that both of them would be beaten up by a student who came from another country? Of course, other than his second uncle, Han Young, he didn't let anyone else in the family know that he was put in a sack. Han Che only thought that he got hurt while practicing martial arts. Han Shitzi entered the room. Han Che followed. "Big brother, you must be tired. Come, drink some water." He poured tea for Han Shitzi attentively. This was his own brother. To put it bluntly, Han Shitzi knew what he wanted from him. "What do you want?" Han Shitzi asked in a low voice. Han Che smiled. "It's nothing. It's just that. I heard that Big Brother has trained a new batch of Black Wind Cavalry. Can you give me a powerful one?" Black Wind Cavalry was very powerful. If he specifically said that, it meant that he didn't want an ordinary one. Han Shitzi didn't say anything. Han Che thought, "It's over. Big Brother will definitely say, 'You didn't cause enough trouble last time when you borrowed the Black Wind Cavalry.'" Unexpectedly, Han Shitzi didn't scold him. Han Shitzi picked up his teacup and suddenly said, "Didn't you take a fancy to that kid's horse?" "Huh?" Han Che was stunned. "What kid?" "Ah." He finally realized that the kid his big brother was talking about was Xiao Lu Lang from Tianqiong Academy. He looked at Han Shitzi in a daze. Big brother, you. Han Shitzi took a sip of tea and lowered his eyes to hide the flash of darkness in them. He said, if he dies, his horse will be yours. Han Che's eyes widened in disbelief. Big brother, is what you said true? That horse king will be mine? Can I really have my own horse king? That was no ordinary horse king. It was the wild horse king that could leave the Black Wind cavalry far behind. Chu Nan had said that it was only 2.5 years old and was not yet an adult, but it already had such strength. In time, it would become the #1 horse under the Black Wind King. Even though he couldn't get his big brother's Black Wind King, he was satisfied to have it. He was so immersed in the joy of obtaining the Horse King that he didn't pay any attention to his elder brother's words of, if he dies. However, his happiness did not last long before a piece of bad news descended from the sky. Your Highness! Your Highness! The servant's anxious voice came from outside the door. Han Shitzi frowned. He put down his teacup and asked, what is it? The servant stood at the door and said in a trembling voice, just now, Lord Chu Nan came and said that Black Wind King is missing. In the alley that was scorched by the scorching sun, Mr. Meng was sweating profusely. He was almost roasted into an old salted fish. He felt that if Gu Jiao and the Horse King did not return, he would have a heat stroke on the spot. Fortunately, when he was on his last breath, Gu Jiao finally returned with the Horse King. No, it wasn't just the Horse King. The Horse King and the horse from the State Preceptor Hall were pulling a cart together. Gu Jiao was sitting in front of the cart, and another horse was lying behind. Feng Yuehua had been chased away by Mr. Meng. He was the only one here. He walked over with sweat all over his forehead. What happened? Oh. Gu Jiao jumped down and patted the cart. I borrowed it from someone on the way. I have to return it later. Mr. Meng was speechless. Was I asking about the cart? It was a horse. What's wrong with this horse? Did you bring a horse home from the market because you wanted to eat horse meat? Mr. Meng whispered to Gu Jiao, Kid, this horse is so weak. It must have contracted the horse plague. Its meat can't be eaten. Gu Jiao was speechless. Black Wind King was speechless. The Black Wind King's condition was worse than Gu Jiao had expected. After the main injury in his abdomen was treated, he still could not walk on his own. Gu Jiao decided to bring him back for treatment first. The Black Wind King was covered in mud. The saddle was broken and kicked away by the Horse King. Therefore, no one recognized him as the famous Black Wind King. The disciples of the State Preceptor Hall warmly prepared a new cart for Gu Jiao to send the Black Wind King back. As for the cart that the Gu family borrowed, the disciples said that they would help Gu Jiao return it. Gu Jiao thanked them and got into the cart with Mr. Meng. The Horse King was injured when pulling the Black Wind King. Gu Jiao did not let him pull the cart. She used the horse from the State Preceptor Hall. The Horse King jumped in front of them happily. When the two carriages arrived at the house where they were temporarily staying, the sky was already dark. Madame Nan was wondering why Gu Jiao and Mr. Meng were gone for so long when she heard the sound of horse hooves outside. She quickly put down the half-plucked mung bean sprout in her hand and got up to open the door for Gu Jiao. She saw the Black Wind King being carried down on a stretcher by several disciples of the State Preceptor Hall. She was stunned and murmured, Are we going to eat horse meat tonight? Black Wind King was speechless. Gu Jiao was speechless. The disciples of the State Preceptor Hall carried the Black Wind King to the front yard and left. It was a horse found in the forest. Little 11 found it. Gu Jiao told the story of how Black Wind King rescued the horse from the swamp to Mistress Nan. Mr. Meng had heard it at the gate of the State Preceptor Hall. At that time, he did not realize it. This time, he suddenly realized that something was wrong. How could there be such a big forest in the inner city of Chengdu? Could it be that the child ran to the royal hunting ground? Maybe it was the royal horse. Forget it. The State Preceptor Hall sent the horse back. If the sky fell, the State Preceptor Hall would hold it up. Crown Prince Han found the inner city and turned the horse upside down. How could he know that his Black Wind King had already been sent out of the city by a spacious carriage with a big shed? There was a new horse at home. Gu Yen and Gu Xiaoshun came over to watch the fun. Gu Jiao stopped her two brothers and said, "It needs to be washed first. Its body is full of poisonous swamp." Gu Xiaoshun went to fetch water. Gu Jiao, Madame Nan, and Master Lu worked for half an hour to clean the swamp. Gu Jiao found that in addition to the big wound on its abdomen, there were many small wounds on its body. Gu Yen took the small medicine box and said, "Here you go." Gu Jiao took the small medicine box and put it on the stool. She took the disinfectant, tweezers, and cotton swabs. She squatted down and began to carefully clean the wounds on its body. The poison is so serious. It needs to take medicine in a while. If it can't take it, it needs to be put on a drip. Gu Jiao said, "Will it let you put it on?" Gu Yen asked. "If it doesn't, then tie it up." Gu Jiao said, "When people were weak, they would become particularly docile. Horses were the same." Black Wind King lay there quietly. It let Gu Jiao do whatever she wanted to it. It didn't even move. Maybe it was because the poison was too serious that it didn't have any strength. Or maybe it was because no one here knew that it was the Black Wind King, so it didn't need to be too brave. Gu Jiao saw that the Black Wind King had some strength. She tried to feed it medicine, but the Black Wind King couldn't take it. Gu Jiao had to take out the drip and put the needles on it. Gu Yen squatted down beside Gu Jiao. He looked at the Black Wind King, who was obediently letting Gu Jiao put the needles on it, and said, "It's so beautiful." The Black Wind King was the same as the Horse King. They were both dark horses, but the Horse King was still a baby. Its hair wasn't fully developed, so it wasn't as shiny as the Black Wind King. Its entire body was dark and robust, yet it wasn't exaggerated. Every single inch of its muscles was restrained yet filled with strength, and it imperceptibly emitted an aura of nobility. "Huh? It's a girl?" Gu Yen saw Gu Jiao put a pink band-aid on it. "Yes." Gu Jiao nodded. She looked at Gu Yen playfully and said, "But it should be older than you. Come, call it Aunt Ma." Gu Yen didn't know what to say. Gu Yen pointed at the Black Wind King and said, "I'm older than it." If he didn't admit it, then it wasn't older than him. All of the Black Wind Kings in the Shenyuan family were male horses. Only a little female horse had shown extraordinary strength and speed since it was young. It ran faster than all of its brothers. When it was 3 years old, it surpassed its father. When it was 6 years old, it defeated the previous Black Wind King and became the new leader of the Black Wind Cavalry. It was so strong that no one dared to laugh at it for being a female horse. Gu Jiao and Gu Yen didn't know this. They only thought that it was a poor, sick horse abandoned by its owner because it fell into the swamp. Gu Jiao said to Gu Yen, "Go and rest. Have a good sleep. You'll have the surgery tomorrow." Gu Yen readily agreed. "Okay. You should go to bed early too." Gu Jiao nodded. "I'll go to bed after giving it the 4 drip." Gu Yen got up and went to his room. "Ah Yen, don't be afraid," Gu Jiao said to him. Gu Yen turned around and smiled. "You're here. I'm not afraid." The next day, the whole family woke up before the sun rose. Now that the operating theater was settled, Gu Yen could finally undergo surgery. Everyone was looking forward to it. "You'll make breakfast today." Master's wife said to Master Lu, "My cooking skills are not good. I don't want to spoil Jiao Jiao and Yan's stomachs." Master Lu thought to himself, "Do you still know that your cooking skills are not good? Then why did you ask Gu Changfeng and Jiao Jiao to bring pickled vegetables and dried vegetables to Lulang and Jingkong every day?" Master Lu cooked millet porridge, steamed a basket of meat buns with soy sauce, and fried a few scallion pancakes. The whole courtyard was filled with a crispy aroma. Gu Yen sat down in a daze. He was still a little dazed. He scooped a spoonful of millet porridge and was about to put it into his mouth when Gu Jiao stopped him. "You have to eat on an empty stomach," Gu Jiao said. Gu Yan's stomach growled. He said pitifully, "But today's breakfast looks so delicious." Master's wife was embarrassed. If she had known, she would have done it. Look at how hungry the child was. After breakfast, Gu Jiao and Gu Yen sat in the carriage to the state preceptor hall. Gu Jiao was determined not to let the horse king pull the carriage. She used another horse at home. Master Meng also sat in the carriage. Master's wife's heart was in her throat. She was very nervous. Although she knew that Gu Jiao's medical skills were brilliant, she still couldn't help but worry. Master Lu comforted her. Yen will be blessed by heaven. Don't worry. Besides, Jiao Jiao is here. Jiao Jiao won't let anything happen to Yen. I know. Master's wife couldn't describe this feeling. In fact, Master Lu was the king of words. He was also very afraid. The calmest person was Gu Yen. It was as if he wasn't the one who went for the operation. Gu Xiaoshun stood outside the window and said to him, "Don't be afraid. My medical skills are very good. When brother-in-law was a cripple, the doctor said that he couldn't be cured. I cured him. You can be cured too." Gu Yen covered his mouth. "After hearing what you said, I'm really scared." Gu Xiaoshun's expression changed. "Ah." Gu Yen smiled. "I'm just teasing you." Gu Jiao said, "Xiaoshun, don't forget to ask for leave from the academy." Gu Xiaoshun answered, "I know, sister." Gu Xiaoshun waved at the carriage and watched it disappear at the end of the road. "Everything is going well, Gu Yen." About an hour later, the carriage arrived at the state preceptor hall. Yu He had been waiting outside for a long time. He saw Gu Jiao and old Mr. Meng's carriage coming towards the state preceptor's hall from afar. After the two of them got off the carriage, he hurriedly went forward to greet them. He cupped his hands and bowed. Gu Jiao asked him, Why are you here?" "I'm waiting for you here," Yu He said. Gu Jiao was surprised. "You knew we would come today?" Yu He smiled and said, "The state preceptor said that you would be here before 9 o'clock. Was that guy a god? How could he even guess this? Yesterday, he said that if Gu Yan's physical condition permitted, he could come for the operation at any time. How could he be so sure that Gu Yan's physical condition would be fine?" Gu Jiao asked suspiciously, "Did the state preceptor send someone to spy on me?" Yu He couldn't help laughing. "Mr. Xiao, you must be joking. The state preceptor will not spy on you. He can only do divination and know everything in the world." "What a good divination and know everything in the world." Forget it. Now was not the time to verify this. It was more important to perform the operation on Gu Yen. Gu Yen got off the carriage. Gu Jiao introduced, "This is my friend Gu Yen. Ah Yen, this is Yu He, a disciple of the state preceptor hall." The two greeted and bowed to each other. Gu Jiao said, "Little brother Yu He, please lead the way." Yu He smiled, "You're welcome." Because of yesterday's lesson, Yu He directly arranged 2 disciples to guard Gu Jiao's carriage. Gu Jiao said, "Actually, there's no need. After all, the horse king is not here." Yu He brought the 3 of them to the state preceptor's side hall. Through Yu He's introduction, Gu Jiao found out that it was the state preceptor's office hall. All his official business was handled in the hall, and the small bamboo house yesterday was the place where he met his friends. "The 3 guests who came yesterday were very special, so I brought them there." In the past, the state preceptor met with guests every month in the Unicorn Hall, Yu He said. In other words, Gu Jiao was also a special guest. Gu Jiao thought of that Taoist Qing Feng. It seemed that he was also a special guest. She just didn't know what was special about the 3 people yesterday. "Who was the first guest yesterday? Is it convenient for you to tell me?" "It's okay if it's inconvenient." "It was Duke Ongua," Yu He said frankly. "Duke Ongua." Meng Lao frowned. "What's wrong?" Gu Jiao asked. Meng Lao explained, "Duke Ongua's mansion and the state preceptor hall are sworn enemies. That year, Duke Ongua was injured so badly that he was a living dead for several years, but he still didn't come to the state preceptor hall for treatment. Gu Jiao looked at Meng Lao. They have a grudge? You can say that. Meng Lao glanced at Yu He. He wasn't sure if it was rude for him to criticize the state preceptor in front of other people's disciples. Yu He tactfully walked to the front. Meng Lao said, Duke Ongwa's mansion and the Shenyuan family are in-laws. It is said that the Shenyuan family's rebellion was related to the state preceptor hall. I don't know the details. People have different opinions. In short, someone saw that Prince Jing and the state preceptor had a big quarrel, and then the two sides had a falling out. Gu Jiao thought of the name Nan Gongli told her before he died. She paused and looked at Meng Lao, asking, It is said that you always play chess with the state preceptor and are treated as a distinguished guest by him. You don't know the reason? Meng Lao said helplessly, He never mentioned the Shenyuan family. Meng Lao, Master Xiao, Master Gu, we're here, Yu He said in a pleasant manner. The three entered the Kailan Hall. Yu He led Meng Lao to a side room and said, Meng Lao, the state preceptor asked you to wait here. Meng Lao looked at Gu Jiao and then at Yu He. Okay, I'll wait for them here. Yu He then said to Gu Jiao and Gu Yen, Please follow me. The three went to the end of the corridor. There were still 2 men of sacrifice standing guard there. Yu He smiled and said, I'll send you here. The state preceptor is inside. Please. The 2 men of sacrifice pushed the iron door open. The smell of disinfectant hit their nostrils. It was left by Gu Jiao yesterday. Today, the state preceptor was already cleaning the operating room. We're not going to use this room, Gu Jiao said as she looked at the state preceptor who was doing the cleaning himself. The state preceptor turned around. There was gentleness and expectation in his eyes. He said, I'm just trying it out. Gu Jiao took down the small basket and said to Gu Yen, This is the state preceptor of the Yen dynasty. Gu Yen cupped his hands and greeted, State preceptor. The state preceptor said, Oh. He looked at Gu Yen and said, He is the patient. He looks very young, but he must have suffered a lot from the disease. I'll help you. As he spoke, his expression suddenly became serious. But are you sure you can trust me? Gu Jiao took out the small medicine box from the small basket. Are you referring to my character or my medical skills? If it's the former, I don't care. If it's the latter, I'll rely on myself. After that, she put the small medicine box into the wall. In the next second, Gu Yen only saw light in front of his eyes. However, before he could see the scene in the operating room, he fainted in the arms of the state preceptor. The state preceptor slowly put Gu Yen on the operating table and took off Gu Yan's clothes. There are some things that he'd better not know. Gu Jiao did not refute. She took out 2 sets of surgical gowns. One set was given to the state preceptor, and the other one was changed for herself. Click. The operating light was turned on. Gu Jiao raised the scalpel and calmly stared at the young man under the light. The anesthesia is done. The operation begins. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found on the internet are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642/826/1072271000. HTML Genius memorized the website address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Bikuj mobile reading website. zhbqg.com. You're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.